Chapter 1135. Now that we're trapped here and can't use our cultivation, how can we kill this monster? Saint King Yinhai was extremely dispirited. Even if he knew the truth, there was nothing he could do. Actually, I didn't waste the past 30 million years. I've read countless books to find out the origin of this monster. The great spirit Saint King's spirit was roused as he continued. This monster is called the Chaos Fog Beast. It is a terrifying creature that lives in the chaos starry sky. They can create the chaos fog to isolate the spirit chi of the outside world and achieve the effect of sealing the cultivation of others. And I found a fog avoidance pearl. That's why I'm not affected by the chaos fog sea and can use my cultivation. However, this monster doesn't have a real body. Its form can change into thousands of forms. If we want to kill it, we need to find the source of this monster, Saint King Tailing said quickly. Source? Yi Xian frowned. Yes, the source pearl. If the chaos fog beast wants to create the chaos fog sea, it must release the source pearl in its body. As long as we find its source pearl and destroy it, the chaos fog sea will naturally disappear, and this monster will die, Saint King Tailing said excitedly. But we're already in the chaos fog sea. Where can we find its source pearl? Saint King Yinhai frowned. In the depths of the chaos fog sea, which is the nest of this monster. Its source pearl is there. It sent me out to lure you two there. This monster has already set up a killing formation to trap and kill you two. We'll beat it at its own game. Saint King Yinhai and I will block this monster while Yi Daoyu destroys its source pearl. This way, we can escape and I won't be controlled by this monster anymore, Saint King Tailing said quickly. Okay. Saint King Yinhai's eyes lit up. Yi Xian frowned as he continuously scrutinized the great spirit Saint King. It was obvious that he didn't really believe the great spirit Saint King. As for the great spirit Saint King, he looked at Yi Xian with a sincere expression, showing that he definitely didn't have any expression on his face. Since that's the case, let's make a good plan. Yi Xian pondered for 3 breaths before nodding. Very quickly, the 3 of them started to make plans. After the plan was finalized, the 3 of them went into the depths of the fog sea under the guidance of Great Spirit Holy King. It didn't take long. 3 days passed. Yi Xian and the other 2 had already reached the depths of the fog sea, and the surrounding fog was gradually dispersing. A blood pool appeared in front of them, and it was constantly bubbling. Old Mother Juku and Daoyan Saint King were covered in blood, and they were weakly wailing in the blood pool. They're not dead yet, Saint King Yinhai muttered in surprise. Shoo, the monster has sensed us, Sage King Tailing hurriedly reminded. Roar! A pitch-black monster with the head of a leopard and the body of a tiger soared into the sky from the pool of blood. An extremely terrifying mist howled through the air as it interweaved into a 30,000-meter large formation that descended towards Yi Xian and the other 2. The origin pearl is at the center of the blood pool. Yi Daoyu, hurry up and destroy it. Yinhai and I will stop this monster, Saint King Tailing roared and charged at the chaos fog beast. Lao Tzu, let's do it. Although Saint King Yinhai's cultivation was sealed, he was still a Saint King. Although his physical body wasn't as strong as Yi Xian's, he could still fight. Tailing, how dare you betray me? The chaos fog beast spoke in human language and charged at Saint King Tailing. Bang! Saint King Tailing took out a chaos spirit sword and slashed at the chaos fog beast. Saint King Yinhai didn't want to fall behind, and he also punched at the chaos fog beast. Yi Daoyu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up! Saint King Tailing shouted anxiously. He was already fighting with the chaos fog beast, but the chaos fog beast was extremely terrifying. Just one hit was enough to make him spit out blood. He wasn't the chaos fog beast's opponent at all. At this moment, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He felt that something was wrong, but the arrow was already on the bow. He stepped into the center of the blood pool. A blood-colored pearl was floating above the blood pool. Hurry up, destroy it. Saint King Tailing retreated as he fought. He kept looking back at Yi Xian. His face was full of anxiety, and his eyes were red at this moment. Yi Daoyu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and destroy his origin pearl. Saint King Yinhai also shouted anxiously. He used all his strength to attack the chaos fog beast, but he couldn't do any damage to the chaos fog beast. The Yinhai Saint King, who was unable to use his cultivation, was simply too weak. The Inhai Saint King and the Great Spirit Saint King retreated step by step, and the primal chaos mist beast had already sensed that something was wrong. Its fierce gaze fell onto Yi Xian, and from the looks of it, it was about to charge towards him. At this moment, Yi Xian stood above the blood pool. His 5 fingers suddenly reached for the blood-colored pearl, and he directly took it in his hand. This made Saint King Tailing extremely happy. "Hurry up, destroy it, destroy it." Saint King Tailing shouted anxiously. "If I destroy it, won't you run away?" Suddenly, Yi Xian's lips curled into a strange smile. He didn't destroy the blood-colored pearl. Instead, he looked at Saint King Tailing with a mocking expression. Saint King Tailing's expression changed drastically. His entire body froze on the spot. The chaos fog beast that was madly attacking him also suddenly stopped. "Just as I thought," Yi Xian said with a cold smile. "What's going on?" Saint King Yinhai also sensed that something was wrong because the chaos fog beast in front of him seemed to have turned into a puppet without any intelligence. Its extremely terrifying aura also disappeared without a trace. Silence, silence, and eerie silence. Saint King Tailing's originally ecstatic expression disappeared. It turned into an extremely gloomy expression as he stared at Yi Xian with a sinister expression. "When did you find out?" Saint King Tailing whispered gloomily. "When we were in the holy land of Taichu." Yi Xian played with the blood-colored pearl in his hand and looked at Saint King Tailing contemptuously. "I thought my plan was flawless. How could you see through my plan?" Saint King Tailing growled as his eyes turned blood red. "Should I call you Saint King Tailing or Gai Tianyuan?" Yi Xian said calmly. Boom! As if the chaos thunder exploded, as if the vast ocean waves were crashing down. Saint King Tailing froze on the spot. His aura froze. What are you talking about?" After a full 10 breaths of time, the Great Spirit Saint King tried his best to calm his panic as he angrily reprimanded Yi Xian. "TSK, TSK, TSK." Yi Xian played with the blood-colored bead in his hand as he curled his lips in disdain and said, "I never thought that the heaven-shaking monster Gai Tianyuan of the past, a peerless figure who could contend with the Lord of all spirits, would actually not dare to admit his identity today. This is truly a huge joke." Chapter 1136. Holy King Tailing looked gloomy. He looked at Yi Xian fiercely. If you looked closely, you would see that he was panicking. It was as if someone had seen through his biggest secret. Hiss! Yi Xian secretly sucked in a breath of cold air in his heart. However, he still pretended to be extremely calm on the surface. But in reality, his heart was already in turmoil. The Great Spirit Saint King didn't know that Yi Xian was only tricking him. Yi Xian only had a little guess, but he didn't expect him to be right. At this moment, the Great Spirit Saint King's expression was extremely gloomy and shocked. This was enough to prove that Yi Xian was right. No, it was not a guess. Yi Xian did suspect that he was Gai Tianyuan. What a guy! He really was Gai Tianyuan? Yi Xian displayed an extremely calm expression, but he was roaring in his heart. Yi Xian guessing that Holy King Tailing was Gai Tianyuan was not baseless. Before they entered Tianyuan Kingdom, Yi Xian had asked them how Tianyuan Kingdom had been destroyed. Their answers were the same. Tianyuan Kingdom had been destroyed by the King of all spirits, and Gai Tianyuan had died at the hands of the King of all spirits. Who was the King of all spirits? He was the most powerful person in the 10th era. To become the most powerful person in history, he must have left behind countless corpses. The King of all spirits was not a soft-hearted person. Since he had destroyed the Tianyuan Kingdom, the Lord of all spirits would not leave behind any living beings. However, there was still a primal chaos mist beast alive in the Tianyuan Kingdom, and it had even enslaved the Great Spirit Saint King. In Yi Xian's opinion, this didn't make sense, and was even more suspicious. Of course, this was not a big point of suspicion. If it had been someone else, they might not have noticed it. However, Yi Xian was very sensitive, and he noticed that something was wrong. However, this did not prove that the Great Spirit Holy King was Gai Tianyuan. What really made Yi Xian suspicious was the blood-red bead in his hand. After all, Yi Xian had cultivated the power of nirvanic extermination and the power of space-time. These two powers were one of the 12 supreme powers, and they were extremely sensitive to other supreme powers. Great Spirit Holy King told Yi Xian that this bead was the original bead of a chaos mist beast. But when Yi Xian held the bead in his hand, the two types of supreme powers inside his body surged crazily, seeming to reject the bead in Yi Xian's hand. Yi Xian could also sense that this blood-red bead contained an extremely terrifying power. This power was not inferior to his two supreme powers at all. Therefore, Yi Xian dared to conclude that this blood-red bead was not the original bead of a chaos mist beast. It was a treasure left behind by the Lord of all spirits. It contained the power of all spirits, and it should be a treasure used to seal something. Of course, these 2 points could not prove the identity of the Great Spirit Holy King. Yi Xian guessed that the Great Spirit Holy King was Gai Tianyuan, because of his deduction. Back when the Tianyuan kingdom was destroyed, everyone died. If there was a living being that had survived, it would have to be Gai Tianyuan. With these 2 points, and Yi Xian's own deduction, he boldly came to the conclusion that the Great Spirit Holy King was Gai Tianyuan, someone who could fight against the Lord of all spirits. This kind of person could very likely escape with his life. Of course, Yi Xian was only guessing. He did not expect that his trick would make the Great Spirit Holy King panic. Yi Xian was very sure that the Great Spirit Holy King was Gai Tianyuan. But why did Gai Tianyuan become the Great Spirit Holy King? Yi Xian did not know the process. Young man, you are very smart. So smart that it surprises me. But I do not understand how you knew that I was Gai Tianyuan. The Great Spirit Holy King, no, he should be called Gai Tianyuan. Gai Tianyuan gradually calmed down. He looked at Yi Xian calmly, but there was a flash of curiosity in his eyes. Previously, I was only guessing, but now that you've confessed without being pressed, I've finally confirmed your identity. Yi Xian smiled and continued. Actually, if you did not admit your identity, I would not have believed that you were Gai Tianyuan, because the Lord of all spirits would not have let you live. But now your identity is clear. You are really Gai Tianyuan? Inhai Holy King trembled. He came to Yi Xian's side and looked at Gai Tianyuan with fear in his eyes. Gai Tianyuan was an extremely terrifying person, a person who could compete with the Lord of all spirits. How could Inhai Holy King not be terrified when such a legendary person appeared? I like smart people. You are indeed very smart. But don't you know that the smarter you are, the faster you die? Rumble, Gai Tianyuan said in a gloomy voice. The stiff chaos fog beast turned into a wisp of black smoke and merged into his forehead. An extremely terrifying power burst out. The holy light of creation surrounded his body. He looked at Yi Xian with eyes full of murderous intent. Creation realm. He is in the creation realm. This chaos fog beast was evolved from a wisp of his soul. Inhai Holy King screamed in horror and stepped back, facing a terrifying existence in the creation realm. He and Yi Xian could not fight back. You want to kill me? Yi Xian was not afraid. He played with the blood-red bead in his hand. His voice was extremely calm. Only the dead can keep secrets. My identity cannot be known to the outside world. Gai Tianyuan said coldly. But if I die, this bead will not be crushed. You will be trapped here forever. Yi Xian sneered. Silly boy. I just said that you are very smart. Why are you so muddle-headed now? When you took this bead from the Myriad Spirit blood pool, the Myriad Spirit heaven sealing formation was already damaged. As long as I seize your body, I can also crush the Myriad Spirit blood bead and leave this place. Gai Tianyuan sneered. Oh, you are so sure that you can kill me? Yi Xian said with narrowed eyes. Ha ha ha. Gai Tianyuan laughed wildly, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Then, he stopped laughing and looked at Yi Xian. Although I am only a wisp of my soul, and am no longer at the peak of my cultivation, killing a junior like you is as easy as flipping my palm. Want to kill me? I'm afraid it is still too early for you. Rumble. The space-time changed and the world distorted. Yi Xian took a step forward, and the space-time around him broke open. He disappeared from Gai Tianyuan's sight in an instant. The power of space-time? The sneer on Gai Tianyuan's face suddenly froze. He roared in horror, his entire being shocked to the extreme. The power of space-time? How can he have the power of space-time? Gai Tianyuan felt like his chest was about to explode. He was in a completely berserk state. Chapter 1137. If there was any power in the chaotic world, it would undoubtedly be the 12 strongest powers of the chaotic world, and the power of time and space ranked in the top 5. The Space-Time Temple? You're from the Space-Time Temple? Gai Tianyuan roared. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Even in the Space-Time Temple, very few people can cultivate the power of time and space. Anyone who can cultivate the power of time and space is a peerless figure. You're just a great saint. How can you cultivate the power of time and space? Gai Tianyuan's eyes were as red as blood as he roared crazily. Outside, Yi Xian had reappeared on the mountain path. In front of him was the 10,000th restriction formation, but at this moment, the restriction formation was shining brightly, reflecting Gai Tianyuan's crazed roar. Obviously, the power of time and space could break through all barriers, allowing Yi Xian to escape easily. Time and space could even travel through the past and the future, let alone a mere restriction formation. Of course, this was because Yi Xian had the power of time and space, but Gai Tianyuan was miserable. He could only roar crazily while trapped in the restriction formation. One might ask, since Gai Tianyuan could transform into Tailing Saint King and walk out of the outside world, why didn't he directly occupy Yi Xian's body? The reason was simple. Gai Tianyuan's remnant soul was suppressed in the restriction formation and could not leave at all, while Tailing Saint King was only controlled by a wisp of his spiritual will and did not have much cultivation. It was the same reason why he did not dare to attack Yi Xian in the outside world, because only in the restriction formation could he rely on his remnant soul to burst out the cultivation of the creation realm. Yi Daoyu, help. Although Yi Xian escaped from the restriction formation, Yinhai Saint King was still inside, and 9 Wei's old mother and Daoyan Saint King were trapped in the 10,000 spirits blood pool, screaming in pain. Junior, let me out at once or I'll kill the 3 of them. Gai Tianyuan roared crazily, wanting to use the lives of the 3 to threaten Yi Xian. You're really a pig. Do you think I care about their lives? Yi Xian smiled contemptuously, looking at Gai Tianyuan through the restriction light screen, as if he was an idiot. Damn it! Gai Tianyuan roared loudly, and his eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to tear Yi Xian apart, but the 10,000 spirits blood pearl was in Yi Xian's hands. If he wanted to escape, he had to get Yi Xian's help. Buzz! Gai Tianyuan stepped forward, but a sliver of his soul was blocked by the restriction. Only Tailing Saint King's body walked out of the restriction. Junior, as long as you release my remnant soul, I'll give you all the treasures of the Tianyuan kingdom, Gai Tianyuan said coldly. Was Bi Yi Xian? Was Saint, naturally posed any threat was no threat was Bi and King. Was. Haha. Yi Xian smiled. However, his smile was extremely disdainful as he said, Do you really think I'm an idiot? If you release your remnant soul, I'm afraid you'll kill me the moment you come out. No, absolutely not. As long as you let me out, I'll take you in as my last disciple. I'll even teach you the Tianyuan battle art. From today onwards, you'll be my disciple. Gai Tianyuan lowered his stance to the extreme, not daring to reveal any killing intent. Unfortunately, Yi Xian chose to ignore Gai Tianyuan's plea. Was this a joke? Would Yi Xian let Gai Tianyuan's soul out? Unless he was tired of living. Bang! Suddenly, Yi Xian sneered and slapped at Gai Tianyuan. Gai Tianyuan was blown away in an instant, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Young man, you dare to humiliate me? Without a remnant soul, Gai Tianyuan only had a strand of his spiritual will on the great spirit Saint King's body. He wasn't a match for Yi Xian at all. This palm strike caused the great spirit Saint King's body to crack, causing Gai Tianyuan's chest to almost explode from anger. Have you heard of the saying, a fallen phoenix is no better than a chicken? No matter how glorious you were, you're just a lowly ant now. So what if I humiliate you? Yi Xian sneered. I'll break Saint Tailing's body, and you'll be trapped in this cage forever. Yi Xian laughed sinisterly as he struck a space-time technique towards Gai Tianyuan. The terrifying space-time strangling power instantly turned the great spirit Saint King's body into ashes, causing the remnant soul within the restriction to let out a miserable cry of pain. Young man, I, Gai Tianyuan, will not rest until you're dead. Within the restriction, Gai Tianyuan's remnant soul roared furiously. Strands of terrifying black mist rose around him, even though he didn't have a physical body at the moment. Just the power that erupted from his remnant soul was enough to make Saint King Yin Hai tremble. He was deeply afraid that Gai Tianyuan would seize his physical body. Fortunately, Gai Tianyuan did not do that. He only looked at Yi Xian angrily. The black mist around him rolled violently, making the entire cage rumble. Just stay in this cage. Once I obtain the treasures of the Tianyuan kingdom, I will seal the entrance to the Tianyuan kingdom. Even if you can seize the bodies of Yin Hai and the others, you won't be able to leave the Tianyuan kingdom. Yi Xian sneered, and was about to cross the 10,000th restriction to search for the treasures of the Tianyuan kingdom. To ordinary people, the cage was indeed terrifying, but Yi Xian had space-time power. He did not need to break the cage by force. He could still get the treasure in the cage. At this moment, seeing Yi Xian about to leave, and hearing Yi Xian's vicious words, Gai Tianyuan shivered all over. If Yi Xian really sealed the entrance to the Tianyuan kingdom, he would really be trapped in the cage until his death. Wait! Gai Tianyuan roared, but Yi Xian chose to ignore him. He was already about to leave. Chaos Star Master. I can make you a Chaos Star Master. Gai Tianyuan seemed to have made a decision. He roared at Yi Xian again. He was extremely anxious. If Yi Xian left, he really would have no hope. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to get Yi Xian to help him escape. Oh, Chaos Star Master? Yi Xian's footsteps paused as he curiously turned his head to look at Gai Tianyuan, who was within the restriction. This unfamiliar word aroused his curiosity. Seeing Yi Xian stop, Gai Tianyuan hurriedly said, "Do you know why the Lord of all Spirits wants to kill me? Do you know why he personally came to the Tianyuan kingdom to destroy my orthodoxy?" Why? Yi Xian was puzzled. Chaos Star Master. It's because he wants to become a Chaos Star Master. That's why he personally came to the Tianyuan kingdom. He wants me to give him the legacy of a Chaos Star Master. Gai Tianyuan directly revealed a shocking secret. Are you telling the truth? Yi Xian's face changed drastically. Although he had no idea what a Chaos Star Master was, how could a legacy that the Lord of all Spirits wanted be simple? Chapter 1138. Seeing that Yi Xian had taken the bait, Gai Tianyuan finally heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that his chances of escaping had greatly increased. Seizing the fortune of heaven and earth, invading the mysteries of chaos, using the chaotic starry sky as a chessboard, using the stars as chess pieces, and everything within sight obeys his orders. This is a Chaos Star Master. Gai Tianyuan hurriedly explained. Gai Tianyuan was afraid that Yi Xian did not know how terrifying a Chaos Star Master was. So he quickly explained to Yi Xian, using the chaotic universe as a chessboard, using everything in the world as chess pieces, and being the chess player. This is also a Chaos Star Master. What great courage! Yi Xian muttered with a heavy gaze. Using the chaotic universe as a chessboard, using everything in the world as chess pieces. This was simply arrogant to the extreme. In the entire chaos world, no one except the strongest throughout history would dare to make such a bold statement. Little friend, you should know that only one strongest throughout history can be born in every Yuan Hui, right? Gai Tianyuan's eyes turned as he lowered his voice. What are you trying to say? Yi Xian felt that Gai Tianyuan was implying something, which made his heart skip a beat. He knew that Gai Tianyuan was about to reveal a big secret. What I want to say is very simple. Gai Tianyuan smiled mysteriously. Although Chaos Star Masters are not well known, they are an extremely terrifying existence, almost comparable to the strongest throughout history. What? Yi Xian's expression suddenly changed. Although he'd guessed that Chaos Star Masters were very powerful, he didn't expect them to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the strongest of all time. This caused Yi Xian to go pale with fright. Looks like you are very surprised, little friend? Gai Tianyuan smiled and explained. Everyone only knows that one Yuan Hui can only produce one strongest throughout history, but they do not know that every Yuan Hui can produce another Chaos Star Master. And the Chaos Star Master of the 10th Yuan Hui has yet to be born. Although Chaos Star Masters are not enough to defeat the strongest throughout history, the strongest throughout history can't do anything to Chaos Star Masters. Primal Chaos 1 Strongest in Yuan Hui 1 Star Master. Every Yuan Hui will give birth to a Primal Chaos 1 Strongest, and a Primal Chaos Star Master. The Lord of all spirits is too greedy. He has already become the strongest of the 10th epoch, yet he still wants to become a Chaos Star Master. Gai Tianyuan sneered. At this moment, Yi Xian's heart was in turmoil, but his face was extremely calm. However, he was shocked by this secret, and his eyes were burning with passion. Yi Xian wouldn't believe it if someone told him that he didn't want this inheritance, but Yi Xian knew that Gai Tianyuan was tempting him to help him escape. What do you mean by telling me all this? Yi Xian pretended to be calm, and did not reveal any strange expression. Little friend Yi, as long as you help me escape, I can help you become a Chaos Star Master, Gai Tianyuan said solemnly. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child that's easy to trick? Yi Xian laughed, but it was a contemptuous laugh. He looked at Gai Tianyuan, as if he was looking at an idiot. If he let Gai Tianyuan out, the first to die would be him. Why would Yi Xian do something so stupid? Little friend, don't misunderstand. As long as you let me out, I won't harm you. Instead, I'll tell you how to become a Chaos Star Master. Moreover, you cultivate the power of space-time. Even if I want to harm you, you can escape with the power of space-time, Gai Tianyuan said sincerely. Hearing Gai Tianyuan's words, Yi Xian frowned and fell silent. Just as Gai Tianyuan said, he had the power of space-time. Even if he wasn't Gai Tianyuan's match, it wouldn't be that easy for him to kill him. However, Yi Xian wasn't sure if Gai Tianyuan was lying to him about becoming a Chaos Star Master. Perhaps sensing Yi Xian's doubts, Gai Tianyuan hurriedly said, Back when the Lord of all spirits destroyed my Tianyuan kingdom, he searched everywhere for the inheritance of a Chaos Star Master. But in the end, he returned empty-handed. Actually, he didn't know that to become a Chaos Star Master, one has to go through the Chaos Trial. And this trial is the 99,999 restrictions. Gai Tianyuan stopped abruptly. Clearly, he didn't want to reveal the secret of how to become a Chaos Star Master. Yi Xian wasn't blinded by greed. Instead, he looked at Gai Tianyuan with a clear mind. I'm very curious. Since you have the inheritance of a Chaos Star Master, why didn't you become a Chaos Star Master yourself? Instead, you were killed by the Lord of all spirits, and left with only a wisp of your soul? Sigh. Young friend, you might not know this, but it's not that easy to become a Chaos Star Master. Just like how the strongest of all eternity has to cultivate step by step. Back then, Gai Tianyuan recounted the past. The so-called Tianyuan Kingdom was actually a trial ground. Only by passing the trial could one become a Chaos Star Master. Unfortunately, Gai Tianyuan didn't pass the trial. However, he still grasped some Chaos Star Master techniques, which was why he could compete with the Lord of all spirits. However, the Lord of all spirits was too strong. Before he could become the strongest of all eternity in the 10th Eon, he had already killed his way to his doorstep. Not only did he destroy the Tianyuan Kingdom, but he also destroyed Gai Tianyuan's soul. In the end, he escaped with only a wisp of his soul. However, before the Lord of all spirits left, perhaps sensing that Gai Tianyuan wasn't truly dead, he left behind a 1,000,000 spirit blood pearl to destroy Gai Tianyuan's soul. One had to admit that Chaos Star Masters were extremely powerful. Although Gai Tianyuan only had a wisp of his soul left, he managed to block the 1,000,000 spirit blood pearl with his half-baked Chaos Star Master techniques, and luckily escaped with his life. However, he was also trapped in the 10,000th restriction. The 1,000,000 spirit blood pearl targeted the soul, and brought him great pain every day. Sooner or later, he would be destroyed by it. Coincidentally, when Sage King Tailing entered the Tianyuan Kingdom 30 million years ago, Gai Tianyuan immediately lured him into the restriction and took his body. That was how he managed to survive until now. He controlled Sage King Tailing's body, and walked out of the outside world, searching for a way to escape. In the end, he came to a conclusion. If his soul wanted to escape, he had to break the 1,000,000 spirit blood pearl. Gai Tianyuan didn't dare to find a creation realm cultivator, because his soul was no match for one. Although he could unleash the power of a creation realm cultivator, he was only a wisp of his soul, and was naturally countered by the million-spirit blood pearl. Those below creation realm would find it very difficult to break the million-spirit blood pearl. Therefore Gai Tianyuan was stuck in a dilemma. Coincidentally, Yi Xian appeared before Gai Tianyuan. He was a supreme saint, but his body was terrifyingly strong. He could break the million-spirit blood pearl and free him. That was why this happened. Little friend, I don't want to talk nonsense. I'm only a wisp of my soul now. If you help me escape, I'll keep my promise and tell you how to become a Chaos Star Master. Gai Tianyuan said in a low voice, and looked at Yi Xian sincerely. Chapter 1139. Gai Tianyuan believed that Yi Xian would agree, because no one could resist the temptation of a Chaos Star Master. Unfortunately, Gai Tianyuan was wrong. Sorry, Chaos Star Master is good, but I need to be alive to get it. Wait until I reach the creation realm. Then I'll come back and make this deal with you. That's the safest way. Yi Xian sneered and disappeared from Gai Tianyuan's sight. Junior, you? Gai Tianyuan was stunned when he saw Yi Xian leave. He never thought that Yi Xian would be able to resist the temptation of a Chaos Star Master. Damn dog. The next moment, Gai Tianyuan went completely berserk. If Yi Xian's identity were to spread, it would definitely bring him a life and death calamity. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was already far away, and only Gai Tianyuan's angry roar could be heard behind him. Yi Xian traveled through time and space. With the power of time and space, he chose to ignore the restrictions on the mountain path, and appeared at the peak of the mountain in an instant. A vast palace bloomed with majestic divine light. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he turned into a streak of light, and entered the Heaven Divine Palace. Yi Xian was indeed envious of a Chaos Star Master, but Yi Xian knew his limits. No matter what Gai Tianyuan said, he would not let Gai Tianyuan out. Of course, Yi Xian was not too afraid of Gai Tianyuan's creation realm cultivation. After all, he had the power of time and space. If he could not beat him, couldn't he just run? What truly made Yi Xian fearful was that Gai Tianyuan was able to compete with the Lord of all spirits in the past, and had even grasped some of the methods of a Chaos Star Master. This kind of person had countless trump cards, and definitely couldn't be treated as a creation realm expert. As the saying went, it was better to be safe than sorry. Yi Xian did not want to fail miserably. The most important thing now was to reach the Saint King realm. That was what he should do. In the Heaven Divine Palace. Nothing. Yi Xian's face was as gloomy as water. A terrifying tyrannical aura surrounded his body. This was because he had walked through the entire Heaven Divine Palace, and only saw bones everywhere. The Dam Pavilion and the Scripture Pavilion were all empty. He did not even see a single Heaven Origin Dan. I miscalculated. Yi Xian growled as he paced back and forth in the Sky Origin Divine Palace. Clearly, when the Lord of all spirits destroyed the Tianyuan kingdom, he must have taken away all the cultivation resources. Now that the Heaven Divine Hall was only an empty shell, Yi Xian found it unacceptable. Yi Xian had entered Tianyuan kingdom in order to obtain the cultivation resources of Tianyuan kingdom, so that he could step into the Saint King realm. But now there was nothing in Tianyuan kingdom. Wasn't this a waste of time? As the saying goes, a thief never leaves empty-handed. Although this saying did not apply to Yi Xian would not have come here empty-handed. This was not in his character, and he was unwilling to accept it. In the fight for the Great Way, one would fall behind if they did not advance. Yi Xian understood one thing very well. In this chaotic world, there was no lack of so-called amazing talents. These people were gifted, and had all kinds of combat constitutions. They had the protection of the great sex and countless cultivation resources to enjoy. What about Yi Xian? He was all alone. He did not have the protection of the great sex. He did not have a powerful combat constitution, and he did not have the so-called cultivation resources. If Yi Xian wanted to rise in the chaotic world, he would have to take it by himself. Burning, killing, looting, and doing anything to achieve his goal. Yi Xian did everything so that he would not fall behind others. He was not Lu Bai, who had the top talent of all time. Cultivation was as simple as drinking water and eating. He was also not one of those amazing talents who could go smoothly on the path of cultivation. He had relied on himself all the way and stepped on piles of corpses to move forward. If he did not have something, he would snatch it. If others had something, he would snatch it. If they did not give it to him, he would kill them, or even kill their entire family and destroy their great sections. All good things belonged to him, Yi Xian. This was Yi Xian's principle of doing things. He had also come this way. But today, he did not even find a single primary heaven elixir. The entire Tianyuan kingdom was just an empty shell. This was simply unacceptable to Yi Xian. Gai Tianyuan? Chaotic Star Master? Yi Xian gradually calmed down. His eyes became abnormally deep. It was definitely not Yi Xian's character to let him return empty-handed. Moreover, Yi Xian was very clear about one thing. He had killed Holy King Hun Tian. The 10,000 Spirit Palace would definitely settle the score with him. With his current cultivation of a great saint, it was tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. Therefore, he had to step into the Saint King realm. This was because Yi Xian did not want to wait until he met Liu Bai in the future. He still needed Liu Bai's protection. This had nothing to do with brotherhood, but it would hurt Yi Xian's self-esteem. Yi Xian was a proud person. He would not allow himself to be stagnant. Yi Xian took a step forward and instantly disappeared from the Heaven Divine Palace. At the bottom of the mountain, Gai Tianyuan angrily paced around the restriction. He was emitting an extremely malicious aura. Holy King Yin Hai was trembling in the distance. Old Mother Nine Ways and Dao Cloud Holy King were wailing in the blood pool. Their flesh and blood were dissipating, and they were almost turning into bones. Despicable Junior, Despicable Junior. Gai Tianyuan roared with hatred. He was extremely violent, but there was deep helplessness in his eyes. He never thought that after he told Yi Xian about the secrets of the Chaos Star Masters, Yi Xian would actually leave. This was simply unacceptable to him. Gai Tianyuan. Wang. The void rippled and spread. Yi Xian silently appeared outside the restriction. He was looking at Gai Tianyuan calmly. Yi Xian. Gai Tianyuan was stunned. Then he was overjoyed. Can you really help me become a chaotic star master? Yi Xian asked in a deep voice. Gai Tianyuan suppressed the joy in his heart and said seriously, I can't guarantee it. Only by passing the chaos trial will you have the right to become a chaotic star master. If you can't pass the chaos trial, then there's nothing I can do. Alright, I'll let you out. But before that, I have to remind you that if you dare to lie to me, I'll use the power of time and space to leave the Heaven Divine Kingdom. I'll also tell the outside world about your identity. You should know better than me what will happen to you then, Yi Xian said coldly. Little friend, don't worry. I won't lie to you. Gai Tianyuan hurriedly promised. Alright, Yi Xian didn't say anything else. As the saying went, fortune comes from danger. He had to become a sacred king. Although this deal was dangerous, he had to do it for his own cultivation. Bang! The 10,000 spirits blood pearl was directly crushed in Yi Xian's hand. The 10,000 spirits blood pool within the restriction shook violently before disappearing from the restriction with a bang. I'm out! I'm out! Woo! Gai Tianyuan instantly appeared on the mountain path. He was controlling Great Spirit Sacred King's body. At this moment, his remnant soul was supporting his body. He was bursting with terrifying creation holy light as he roared excitedly. At the same time, Sacred King Yin Hai and the other two also escaped. However, Old Mother Juku and Daoyan Sacred King were as thin as sticks. Clearly, they had suffered great injuries in the 10,000 spirit blood pool. Now, can you tell me how to become a chaotic star master? Yi Xian's eyes were cold. Space-time power surrounded him. If Gai Tianyuan dared to attack him, he would immediately escape the Tianyuan kingdom and tell the outside world about Gai Tianyuan's identity. Fortunately, Gai Tianyuan didn't show any killing intent. Clearly, he was very smart. He knew that with Yi Xian's space-time power, he wouldn't be able to keep Yi Xian here. Little friend, thank you for helping me escape. Gai Tianyuan calmed himself down and first bowed to Yi Xian to express his gratitude. Then he slowly explained the secret of becoming a chaotic star master. In order to become a chaotic star master, one had to unlock these 99,999 restrictions. It couldn't be broken by brute force. As long as one could unlock all of these restrictions, the inheritance of a chaotic star master would naturally appear. That simple. Yi Xian was stunned by Gai Tianyuan's explanation. Simple? Gai Tianyuan smiled coldly. These 99,999 restrictions involve the mysteries of the chaotic universe. They're extremely complex formations that can transform the primal chaos. Without unparalleled talent, it'll be nearly impossible to undo them. Back then, I spent 50 million years and only managed to unlock around 80,000 restrictions. In the end, it was all for naught. Otherwise, how could the Lord of all Spirits kill me if I obtained the inheritance of a chaotic star master? Gai Tianyuan sneered. In that case, if I can't unlock these restrictions, I won't be able to obtain the inheritance of a chaotic star master? Yi Xian said with a gloomy expression. Gai Tianyuan clearly knew this was the case. That was why he told Yi Xian the secret of becoming a chaotic star master. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be able to unlock these restrictions. Little friend, I've already given you such a great opportunity. As for whether you can obtain it or not, it's all up to you. Gai Tianyuan smirked with contempt in his eyes. Chapter 1140. It wasn't that Gai Tianyuan looked down on Yi Xian, but the primal chaos trial was almost impossible to complete. Even he, who had the heavenly origin combat body, couldn't complete the trial in the past. How could Yi Xian, who had a mortal body, succeed? Looking at Gai Tianyuan's fearless appearance, Yi Xian instantly understood what he was thinking. However, Yi Xian was a person who didn't believe in fate. He wanted to see how difficult the primal chaos trial was. However, before that, Yi Xian still had a very important thing to do. Boom! Yi Xian explosively attacked, and the Calamity Immortal technique was activated. Old Mother Juku and Dao Cloud Saint King were instantly covered by the black fog that filled the sky. Their originally skinny flesh and blood instantly melted. The two Saint Kings screamed miserably as they were swallowed by the Calamity Transcender technique, giving them an unimaginable calamity. Yi Daoyu, what are you doing? Saint King Yinhai, who was at the side, roared in shock. He took 3 steps back and looked at Yi Xian with an extremely horrified expression. Not to mention Saint King Yinhai, even Gai Tianyuan was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be so vicious as to take the lives of 2 Saint Kings. However, in the next moment, Gai Tianyuan understood why Yi Xian did this. Rumble! The 2 Saint Kings screamed miserably as they died. Their blood soul essence chi was completely swallowed by Yi Xian. An extremely terrifying energy overflowed from Yi Xian's body, and even his body was constantly swaying. It's the devouring technique again. Gai Tianyuan's eyes flickered as he muttered gloomily. He had seen Yi Xian use this technique in the Holy Land of Taichu. At first, he thought that Yi Xian was from the heaven-devouring demonic palace, but Yi Xian didn't admit it. What a mysterious junior! The power of time and space, and the devouring technique. Just these 2 powers are related to the 2 great temples. Where did this person come from? If I let him continue devouring like this, I'm afraid it won't take long for this junior to surpass me. Gai Tianyuan looked calm on the surface, but he was actually having a hard time calming down. The more time he spent with Yi Xian, the more he couldn't see through Yi Xian. Fortunately, this kid only had a mortal body, and he could at most cultivate to the 3 realms of creation and creation. He could forget about stepping into the yin-yang and yang realms in this lifetime. Thinking of this, Gai Tianyuan felt a little comforted. He allowed Yi Xian to devour the cultivation of the 2 Saint Kings. As he remained extremely calm, that Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of turbid air, as the Calamity Immortal technique gradually dissipated. The 2 Saint Kings had died, without even leaving behind their bones. As for Yi Xian, his complexion was flushed red, and his aura had strengthened by a great deal. After devouring the cultivations of 2 Saint Rulers, Yi Xian felt that he was only 1 step away from the Saint Ruler realm. However, taking this step would require a massive amount of cultivation resources. Fellow Taoist Yu, Cold sweat poured down Saint King Yinhai's forehead as he looked at Yi Xian in horror. His eyes were filled with fear. But it was a pity that Yi Xian did not even look at Saint King Yinhai in the eye. He took down the heaven and earth pouches of the two Saint Kings and kept them in. Within them were the treasures that the two of them had obtained from the seal. Do you want to ask why I didn't get devoured by my heart demons after killing the two of them, even though I swore a heart-blood oath? Yi Xian looked at Saint King Yinhai from the corner of his eyes. No, no. Saint King Yinhai waved his hands hurriedly as he forced out a smile on his face. However, this smile of his was uglier than crying. That was because he could feel the killing intent in Yi Xian's eyes. Suddenly, Saint King Yinhai took out the Heaven Essence pill and handed it over to Yi Xian with a trembling hand. He even lowered his stance and said, Yi Daoyu, this Heaven Essence pill was yours to begin with. Now it's returned to its rightful owner. I have no grudges with you, fellow Taoist. I hope that you can spare my life, fellow Taoist. The Heaven Essence pill and the Heaven Mending pill were equally famous. They were known as the two greatest miraculous pills in the world. Naturally, Yi Xian would not let this chance slip by. With this Heaven Essence pill, he would definitely be able to step into the Saint Ruler state. Yi Xian kept the Heaven Essence pill in his pouch. But in the next moment, the power of time and space burst forth and enveloped Saint King Yinhai. Saint King Yinhai had been guarding against Yi Xian the entire time. The moment Yi Xian made a move on him, he wanted to escape immediately. But it was a pity that the power of time and space was one of the 12 strongest powers in chaos. Even though Saint King Yinhai was prepared for it, he could not escape from the power of time and space. Yi Xian, you'll die a horrible death. Rumble. Saint King Yinhai cursed. But the power of time and space was simply too terrifying. Instantly, he was shredded into a bloody mist. Only his dying voice could be heard reverberating throughout the world. The Calamity Immortal technique was activated once more. The blood soul essence chi of Saint King Yinhai was devoured by Yi Xian. After everything was done, Yi Xian's lips curled into a satisfied smile. What a vicious heart! What a terrifying power of time and space! I'm afraid that even the 9 heaven Saint Kings are no match for you, Gai Tianyuan said coldly. Same here. You Gai Tianyuan are not a merciful person. What's more, those who achieve great things do not care about trifles. They are weak, so they deserve to die. Am I wrong? Yi Xian looked at Gai Tianyuan with a sneer. You are very strong. You can kill Saint Kings like killing chickens as a great sage. With this cultivation alone, you are not inferior to those peerless geniuses. But don't be too proud. Those monstrous geniuses can also kill 9 heaven Saint Kings at the Great Saint Realm. You've only killed some ordinary Saint Kings. If you encounter those monstrous geniuses, I'm afraid you'll become a skeleton under their feet. Gai Tianyuan's expression did not change. Then let's wait and see. Yi Xian did not bother to argue with Gai Tianyuan. He was just walking his own path. Sooner or later, he would prove that he was not weaker than anyone. No matter if you were a peerless genius or a peerless genius, as long as you blocked Yi Xian's path, you would all be dead. But you did well. Even if you didn't kill them, I would have killed them. After all, they knew my identity and saw you use the power of time and space. I think you killed them because you didn't want to expose the power of time and space, right? Gai Tianyuan looked at Yi Xian with a mocking expression. Cut the crap. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. Yi Xian did not have time to waste with Gai Tianyuan. He only wanted to enter the Primal Chaos trial and see the inheritance of the Primal Chaos Star Master. That was what he wanted. 99,999 restrictions. The first 10,000 are just ordinary restrictions. It can't be called the Primal Chaos trial. From the 10,001st restriction onwards, it is called the Primal Chaos trial. Remember, do not break it with brute force. Don't even think about using your power of time and space to pass through the restrictions. Only by relying on yourself to break these restrictions can you see the inheritance of the Primal Chaos Star Master. After Gai Tianyuan finished speaking, he actually wanted to take the lead and step into the 10,001st restriction. This caused Yi Xian's expression to slightly change as he said, You also want to enter the Primal Chaos trial? What a joke. I only agreed to give you the opportunity to become a Primal Chaos Star Master. I didn't say I wouldn't fight with you for the inheritance, Gai Tianyuan said disdainfully as he entered the Primal Chaos trial. Chapter 1141. Chaos Star Master. An existence comparable to the strongest throughout history. Only one Yuanhui could be born. How could Gai Tianyuan give such a great opportunity to Yi Xian? This is getting interesting. Yi Xian's eyes turned cold. He wasn't afraid of Gai Tianyuan's tricks, and quickly stepped into the chaos trial. Rumble. In the next moment, Yi Xian felt the world spin as the laws around him interweaved. There was even an obscure energy rippling around him, and Gai Tianyuan was right in front of him, walking towards the next restriction with large strides. Junior, have a good taste of the chaos trial. I'll go first. Gai Tianyuan turned his head around to look at Yi Xian with disdain. Then, he walked forward with extremely strange steps, and instantly left Yi Xian's line of sight. Gai Tianyuan was clearly very familiar with the chaos trial. He had been through it before, so the restriction before him naturally couldn't trap him. Seeing that Gai Tianyuan had already disappeared, it was obvious that he'd entered the next restriction. This caused Yi Xian to frown as he similarly walked forward. Chi! Suddenly, Yi Xian had just taken a step when formation runes filled the sky and directly attacked Yi Xian. Yi Xian hurriedly retreated, and the formation runes disappeared again. Formation runes intertwined, laws born, heaven and earth changed, shifting positions. Looks like the Chaos Star Master's inheritance is related to formations, Yi Xian muttered. Yi Xian wasn't completely clueless about formations. In the past, he had created the Primal Chaos Empyrean formation in the primeval world, so he had some understanding of formations. I can't break through them with brute force, so I can only break through them one by one? Yi Xian seemed to have understood something. He gradually calmed his fluctuating emotions and began to comprehend the restriction he was in, hoping to find the way to the next restriction. Kan's position is on the left, Kuan's position is in front. Shift and change positions, changing constantly. Although Yi Xian wasn't a world-shaking genius, he wasn't a fool either. He studied the restriction array in front of him for a bit, and it didn't take him more than 10 breaths to figure out the mystery behind it. Go! Yi Xian smiled faintly. Just like Gai Tianyuan, he walked out of this place with strange steps, and directly appeared in the next restriction. Heaven and earth are formless, and the Big Dipper leads the way. It's extremely simple. The second restriction array was also unlocked by Yi Xian. He then entered the third restriction array. On the other side, Gai Tianyuan had already walked past more than 10,000 restriction arrays. It was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. He had once walked through the primal chaos trials, so the first few tens of thousands of restrictions posed no difficulty to him at all. Back then, he had been defeated in the last 10,000 restrictions, which was why he had missed out on the inheritance of a Primal Chaos Star Master. However, after being trapped in the Tianyuan Kingdom for so many years, he had been studying the Tao of Formations all this time. He boasted that his Tao of Formations had reached greater mastery, and that he had great hopes of solving all the Primal Chaos trials, and obtaining the Chaos Star Master's legacy. So fast. Suddenly, Gai Tianyuan's footsteps paused. He turned back slightly, because he sensed that Yi Xian had actually unlocked hundreds of restrictions in a short period of time, and was steadily advancing. Your aptitude is not bad, and you have some talent in the Tao of Formations. Unfortunately, the Primal Chaos trials are not as simple as you think. The further you go, the more difficult it will be. When you encounter true danger, even the power of space-time won't be able to save you, Gai Tianyuan said in a low voice. Clearly, Gai Tianyuan wasn't so kind as to really give Yi Xian the Chaos Star Master's legacy. He had told Yi Xian the secret of the Chaos Star Master, so that Yi Xian would enter the Primal Chaos trials. In Gai Tianyuan's heart, Yi Xian was already on the list of people who must die. However, Yi Xian had the power of space-time, so it would be extremely difficult for him to kill Yi Xian. Therefore, he wanted to use the Primal Chaos trials to kill Yi Xian. Of course, the Primal Chaos trials were real, and so was the Chaos Star Master's legacy. Gai Tianyuan wasn't lying about any of this. However, there was one thing he didn't tell Yi Xian. Only those in the creation realm could enter the primal chaos trials. Those below the creation realm who entered the primal chaos trials would only die. The early stages of the primal chaos trials weren't anything special. However, the later stages would become more dangerous. Only those in the creation realm would be able to unravel the restrictions later on. At that time, Yi Xian would be in danger, and even the power of space-time wouldn't be able to save him. This was Gai Tianyuan's plan to kill with a borrowed knife. Telling Yi Xian about this opportunity was only so that he could truly kill Yi Xian. That was his true goal. On the other side, Yi Xian had already broken through 1,000 restriction arrays, and his pace gradually slowed down. This was because he could completely feel that as he broke through these restriction arrays, the restrictions that appeared behind him became more and more powerful, causing him to feel a headache. The gates of life and death are staggered. What a profound array! Yi Xian stopped in his tracks and frowned. He was studying the restriction he was in. After half a day, he finally unraveled it. I see. Although Yi Xian had been comprehending the array restrictions the entire time, his mind was extremely clear. In this instant he seemed to have understood something. The so-called primal chaos trials are a learning process. This is the true essence of the primal chaos trials, Yi Xian murmured. His eyes gradually brightened. Start from the basics to the basics. Apply what you've learned. Understand the changes of the primal chaos. Understand the mysteries of the sun and moon. Understand the primal chaos universe. Understand the true essence of all things. Yi Xian was pleasantly surprised. So that's it. Yi Xian's face flushed. He instantly understood the true essence of the primal chaos trials. To put it bluntly, the primal chaos trials were a process of cultivating the Tao of formations. As long as Yi Xian could completely comprehend these restrictions, he would become a formation grandmaster. And if he became a formation grandmaster, he would naturally be able to see the inheritance of the primal chaos star masters. This was the true essence of the primal chaos trials. At this moment, Yi Xian thought of Lu Bai. If Lu Bai was here, the primal chaos trials would be easy for him. He would definitely be able to obtain the inheritance of the primal chaos star masters. Unfortunately, Lu Bai wasn't here. It was a pity. However, Yi Xian wouldn't give up on the opportunity in his hands. Although he didn't have the talent of Lu Bai, the #1 talent in all of history, he wouldn't let go of this great opportunity that was placed in front of him. Finally, Yi Xian calmed down and began to seriously study the Tao of formations. His entire body and mind were immersed in the primal chaos trials. Yi Xian wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was very smart. When he removed all distracting thoughts and focused all his attention on studying the Tao of formations, his understanding of the Tao of formations became deeper and deeper. 1 restriction array, 10 restriction arrays, 100 restriction arrays, 1,000 restriction arrays, 10,000 restriction arrays. He forgot to eat and sleep, and was completely focused. Yi Xian was completely immersed in the Tao of formations. He had completely forgotten the concept of time. He was greedily absorbing the knowledge regarding the Tao of formations. Unknowingly, he had already walked past 10,000 restrictions. And Yi Xian had used 200,000 years to comprehend 10,000 restrictions. This was an extremely long time, but the things it brought to Yi Xian were unimaginable. Open. Naturally, the Tao of formations intertwined. Specks of starlight appeared at the tip of Yi Xian's finger. When he pointed out, the 10,000th restriction array suddenly opened. He took a step forward and reappeared on the mountain path. He could even see Gai Tianyuan's blurry figure in front of him. The primal chaos universe, unity of heaven and man. So the Tao of formations is so vast. It can mobilize the mighty force of the primal chaos, overturn the mysteries of the world, move mountains and rivers with a thought, and turn the stars into chess pieces with a flip of the hand. No wonder Brother Bai Yi was so obsessed with the Tao of formations in the past. Yi Xian was filled with many emotions. When he walked past the 10,000th restriction array, he had undergone an unimaginable transformation. This transformation had nothing to do with his cultivation. Instead, it was the application and understanding of the Tao of formations. Yi Xian had gained a few more terrifying techniques. To make a simple analogy, Yi Xian had once needed to use his cultivation to kill a sage king. But now he didn't need to use his cultivation. He could rely on the Tao of formations alone to stand in an invincible position. Of course, this was only the beginning. He had only comprehended 10,000th restriction array. There were still many things he needed to learn. If he could finish the primal chaos trials, he would definitely become a peerless Tao of formations grandmaster. Let's go. Yi Xian stepped into the primal chaos trials again and continued to comprehend the Tao of formations. His speed gradually increased, and his understanding of the Tao of formations also deepened. The speed at which he dissolved the restrictions also became more and more terrifying. His entire person was undergoing an indescribable qualitative change. Only one Chaos Star Master could be born in every Yuanhui. Seizing the mysteries of the primal chaos universe, using the primal chaos myriad beings as chess pieces, using the primal chaos as the chessboard, and seeing all things as chess pieces. The Chaos Star Master was the chess piece. If Yi Xian could really become a Chaos Star Master, the benefits would be unimaginable. Now Yi Xian was in the process of accumulating strength. He had devoured 3 sage kings and had a heaven origin pill in hand. His cultivation was already at an extremely terrifying critical point. As the saying went, if he could obtain the opportunity to become a Chaos Star Master, coupled with the boundless potential that was about to erupt, who knew what kind of terrifying changes would occur? Chapter 1142. What was a Chaos Star Master? A blade of grass could split the sky, a grain of sand could fill the sea, and anything could be turned into something magical in their hands. This was a Chaos Star Master. Everything in the chaotic universe could be controlled by a Chaos Star Master. Even a blade of grass or a grain of sand could become a terrifying weapon of mass destruction in the hands of a Chaos Star Master. This was also why only one Chaos Star Master could be born in a Yuanhui. Yi Xian advanced at a steady pace, completely immersed in the sea of wisdom of formations. He absorbed all knowledge about formations at a frenzied pace, and his understanding of formations became more and more frightening. Mystic position changes, illusion positions bewilder the eyes, great praise. Yi Xian took a step forward, and the formations behind him dissipated like bubbles. With every formation he walked past, he grasped the essence of each formation and made it his own. Another 10,000 formations were walked past, and this time, Yi Xian only spent 100,000 years. However, he didn't feel any joy, and instead continued forward calmly. Everything returned to one, and all paths led to the same destination. Apart from the requirements of one's talent, the most important thing to cultivating formations was to have a heart that was neither arrogant nor impatient, a heart that could endure loneliness. Although Yi Xian didn't have Lu Bai's #1 talent of all time, his heart had long been tempered to be as firm as a rock, and he also had unimaginable willpower. It was also through great willpower that Yi Xian could reach where he was today, and he believed that he wouldn't be inferior to anyone in the future. Rumble. Yi Xian slowly walked as the formation behind him dissipated like a bubble. The speed at which he comprehended these formations was extremely fast, and it had already reached an extremely terrifying level. How is this possible? Why is it like this? Gai Tianyuan turned around in shock. He could already faintly see that Yi Xian was halfway up the mountain. The other party had already passed through 20,000 restriction formations. This was simply unimaginable to him. 300,000 years. He actually used 300,000 years to walk past 20,000 formations. Gai Tianyuan's expression was sinister, and his mind was in turmoil. Gai Tianyuan couldn't be blamed for being so shocked. Back in the day, he had used an entire million years to walk past 20,000 formations, and Yi Xian had done it 3 times faster than him. Impossible, how is this possible? Gai Tianyuan muttered in shock. This kid is just a mortal, and I have the heavenly origin battle body. How is he able to comprehend formations faster than me? Gai Tianyuan's mind was in turmoil, and he simply couldn't accept this. Fortunately, he quickly calmed himself, and a cold smile Even if you have some talent in the Tao of formations, there's no way you'll be able to pass through these 60,000 formations. They'll definitely take your life." Gai Tianyuan sneered cruelly and began to comprehend the formations before him again. It had to be said that Gai Tianyuan was truly a monstrous genius. He was able to compete with the Lord of all spirits in the past, and that was also why he was so outstanding. Gai Tianyuan was currently only 9,999 formations away from the Chaos Trial. This was also the last 10,000 formations. As long as he could pass through the last 10,000 formations, he would be able to pass the Chaos Trial. Yi Xian was 60,000 formations away from Gai Tianyuan. This was an extremely terrifying number. It would be extremely difficult for Yi Xian to catch up to Gai Tianyuan. Fortunately, Gai Tianyuan was also having a hard time. This was because the last 9,999 formations were the most terrifying part of the Chaos Trial. Every single formation was extremely dangerous, and a single misstep could lead to Gai Tianyuan's death. 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 50,000 years. Another 50,000 years passed, and Gai Tianyuan only managed to comprehend 10 formations. He was completely out of breath, and he gave off a feeling of mental and physical exhaustion. Every single formation in the last 9,000 plus formations was extremely terrifying. It required the trial taker to devote all of their attention to comprehending them. The amount of mental and physical exhaustion was simply unimaginable. Huff, huff, huff. Gai Tianyuan constantly panted as beads of sweat dripped down his face. Just comprehending 10 formations had taken him 50,000 years. He was completely exhausted, and he wanted nothing more than to have a good sleep. Rumble. Suddenly, a violent rumble rang out from behind Gai Tianyuan. He turned around in fright, and he was instantly stunned on the spot. How is this possible? Gai Tianyuan roared in shock when he saw what was happening halfway up the mountain. Yi Xian had comprehended the 30,000th formation again, and this time, it had only taken him 50,000 years. Impossible. How is this possible? The later formations become more and more difficult. How can he be so fast? Gai Tianyuan roared furiously. His eyes were already filled with panic. If this continued, Yi Xian would catch up to him sooner or later, before he could even pass the primal chaos trials. This made his heart palpitate. Stinking brat. I refuse to believe your luck is that good. Let's see how far you can go. Gai Tianyuan muttered hatefully. He began to comprehend the 11th formation again. Time flew by like a white steed passing a crack. Another 30,000 years passed, and Gai Tianyuan had only comprehended 2 more formations. However, another rumble came from behind him. Yi Xian had actually passed through the 40,000th formation. Damn it! Gai Tianyuan roared furiously. His eyes had already turned scarlet. He sped up his comprehension of the formations in front of him, as if he had gone mad. A great sense of urgency filled his heart. As the saying goes, one can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Moreover, the Tao of formations had to be done step by step. Under the pressure given by Yi Xian, Gai Tianyuan's mind was unstable as he tried to comprehend the restriction formation. This caused a huge problem. Puff! Gai Tianyuan spat out a mouthful of blood. He collapsed to the ground. He had suffered a backlash from the primal chaos trials. If he didn't have the heavenly origin battle body, and his soul was extremely powerful, the backlash from the primal chaos trials would have killed him. Damn it! Gai Tianyuan struggled to get up. He knew he had committed a grave mistake. He quickly calmed his mind and began to treat his injuries. He temporarily stopped paying attention to Yi Xian. On the other side, Yi Xian was strolling forward, as if he was leisurely strolling through a courtyard. He was comprehending the Tao of formation restrictions in an orderly manner. He'd completely forgotten about Gai Tianyuan's existence and was completely immersed in the sea of knowledge. Another 20,000 years passed. Yi Xian passed through the 50,000th formation and stepped into the 60,000th formation without stopping. This time it took even less time. Yi Xian only took 15,000 years to pass through the 60,000th formation. Yi Xian took 10,000 years to pass through the 70,000th formation. Yi Xian took 8,000 years to pass through the 80,000th formation. When Yi Xian walked out of the 80,000th formation, he was still immersed in the Tao of formations. It wasn't until Gai Tianyuan's figure appeared in front of him that Yi Xian woke up. Chapter 1143. Yi Xian, your perception has indeed made me look at you in a whole new light. Just based on your perception, you can be called a genius just by being able to catch up in hundreds of thousands of years. Gai Tianyuan clasped his hands behind his back. His expression was extremely calm, as if he didn't care that Yi Xian had caught up to him. He even looked at Yi Xian, as if he was the ruler of the world. However, if one looked closely, they would notice that Gai Tianyuan's hands were tightly clenched. Terrifying veins were squirming on his palms, proving just how furious he was. There were 80,000 chaos trials. Gai Tianyuan had used 10 million years to pass them, but how much time had Yi Xian used? Not even 500,000 years. There was a 20-fold difference between 500,000 years and 10 million years. This made Gai Tianyuan extremely furious. Who was he? He was Gai Tianyuan. He had the Tianyuan battle physique. He had once competed with the Lord of all spirits. He was known as a world-shaking genius of that era. But now, he couldn't even compare to a junior. How could he not be ashamed and furious? Pointing at the sky and drawing the earth, shifting the stars, moving the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers, all in the palm of my hand. Yi Xian smiled. If it weren't for you, Gai Tianyuan, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to obtain such a great opportunity. I really have to thank you. You, Gai Tianyuan's blood boiled. His chest was about to explode from anger. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood, but he forcefully swallowed it back down. Yi Xian, don't be so smug. The last 9,999 seals aren't that easy to pass. I'm afraid you won't even know how you died. But don't worry. Since you saved me, I'll personally build you a coffin after you die. I'll definitely give you a proper burial. Gai Tianyuan sneered. I won't die before you do. I'll leave that coffin for you. Yi Xian retorted. He strode into the first seal. Rumble. Stars filled the sky as the world turned upside down, and the markings of stars that covered the sky interweaved as strands of star annihilation flooded towards Yi Xian. The last 9,999 restrictions were extremely terrifying, and any living being below the creation realm that entered them would definitely die. Ha ha ha. Gai Tianyuan laughed wildly and said, Junior, I forgot to tell you that without the cultivation of the creation realm, the last 9,999 restrictions will take your life. Even if you have the power of time and space, you can forget about escaping. Extinction. Rumble. Suddenly, Yi Xian pointed his sword at the sky, as if it had streaked across the vast sky. That strand of nirvanic energy was born at the tip of his finger, and it annihilated the stars in the sky with a bang. He was completely unharmed. Boom! It was as if the 9 heavens were exploding, as if the primal chaos was exploding. Gai Tianyuan's face, which had been laughing wildly, suddenly stiffened. He was completely stupefied. Undying Heaven Lord? The power of Nirvana? You? Gai Tianyuan's face was ghastly pale, and he staggered backward. If Yi Xian's display of the power of time and space had made him feel that Yi Xian was extremely extraordinary, then the appearance of the power of Nirvana had made his soul freeze. This. Gai Tianyuan trembled as he pointed at Yi Xian, unable to speak. An unimaginable terror was assaulting him. The power of time and space, the power of Nirvana, and the power of devouring that seems to be the heaven-devouring demon lord, you. Who are you? Gai Tianyuan shrieked in horror. Frightening, too frightening, extremely frightening. Terrifying, the greatest terror since the beginning of time. There were 12 supreme powers in the primal chaos universe, and each of them represented an ancient supreme power. However, Yi Xian actually had 3 supreme powers. This was simply an unprecedented level of terror. Now that it was the 10th Yuan Hui, the primal chaos universe had only produced 10 supreme experts, and there were only 10 supreme powers. However, Yi Xian alone occupied 3 of them. This kind of strange and terrifying thing was simply unbelievable. No, it wasn't just 3. Yi Xian's heaven-devouring technique was the power produced by the Tribulation Transcender technique, while the tribulation transcender technique wasn't the power of devouring. There was a huge difference between them. However, in Gai Tianyuan's eyes, he had already regarded Yi Xian's tribulation transcender technique as the power of devouring. He also believed that Yi Xian had mastered 3 supreme powers. In Gai Tianyuan's eyes, Yi Xian's identity was simply earth-shattering. You, who are you, you? What is your relationship with the 3 supreme existences? Gai Tianyuan trembled as he looked at Yi Xian with an extremely frightened expression. Who am I? Yi Xian whispered. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile as he looked up at Gai Tianyuan and said, I am Yi Xian. Although this name isn't very famous now, it will definitely spread throughout the primal chaos universe in the future. Yi Xian? Yi Xian? Gai Tianyuan muttered. His expression changed unpredictably. After several dozen breaths of time, he finally calmed down and stared at Yi Xian with a gloomy expression. There's a rule in the top 10 sects. Anyone who has cultivated the ultimate force is not allowed to join any other ultimate orthodoxy. Yet you've managed to cultivate 3 ultimate forces. This is clearly a violation of the taboo. Although I don't know how you managed to cultivate 3 ultimate forces, if the top 10 sects were to find out about this, they would definitely not let you off. Gai Tianyuan said grimly. Are you threatening me? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. I wouldn't call it a threat, but I am very interested in your 3 supreme powers. Gai Tianyuan's eyes were burning. He looked at Yi Xian, as if he was looking at a peerless treasure. 3 supreme powers. Gai Tianyuan would not believe it if he said that he was not tempted. If he could obtain 3 supreme powers, coupled with his Tianyuan battle physique, he would very likely become the strongest of all time when the 11th Yuanhui began. Although Chaos Star Masters were good, and could almost be compared to the strongest of all time, it was only almost. The true rulers of the primal chaos world were the strongest of all time. Even Chaos Star Masters were inferior to them. How could Gai Tianyuan not be tempted? Old thing, if you want to covet my supreme powers, then let's see if you have the ability to do so. Yi Xian smiled coldly. He could see through Gai Tianyuan's thoughts at a glance. However, Yi Xian was not worried. Now that the 2 of them were in the primal chaos trial, they could not casually make a move. Otherwise, they would definitely trigger these restrictions and bring calamity to themselves. Yi Xian, don't be so smug. I want the Chaos Star Master's inheritance, and I also want your supreme powers. Let's wait and see. Gai Tianyuan sneered and ignored Yi Xian. He continued to study the restriction in front of him. You, Yi Xian said coldly. A complete failure. Back then, you became the stepping stone of the Lord of all spirits. Now you will also become the stepping stone of me, Yi Xian. Yi Xian did not waste any time, and began to study the restriction in front of him. The 2 of them were competing to see who could obtain the Chaos Star Master's inheritance first. Chapter 1144. It had to be said that the last 9,999 formations were extremely profound. Just the first formation was enough to stump Yi Xian. 8 shifts, dislocation and intersecting. How do you break this formation? Yi Xian frowned as he continued to deduce the formation's direction. However, the heaviness in his eyes was extremely dense. Clearly, the formations before him were giving him a headache. Bang! Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was trying his best to comprehend the first formation, Gai Tianyuan advanced again and broke through another formation. What a Gai Tianyuan! He does have some tricks up his sleeve. Yi Xian looked at Gai Tianyuan's back with a sinister glint in his eyes. He was indeed very surprised that Gai Tianyuan could comprehend the formation so quickly. After all, he had not even comprehended the first formation yet. Of course, being shocked was one thing. Yi Xian was not discouraged because he knew that Gai Tianyuan was extremely familiar with the chaotic trial. It was within his expectations that Gai Tianyuan could comprehend the formations so quickly. Time passed extremely quickly. 100,000 years had passed. Gai Tianyuan had already broken through 100 formations and was advancing like a hot knife through butter. On the other hand, Yi Xian had only comprehended 10 formations, which was 10 times the distance between him and Gai Tianyuan. This won't do. Although he's only left with a sliver of his soul, he's still a manifestation realm cultivator. Moreover, he has the heavenly Yuan battle physique and is extremely familiar with the chaotic trial. His comprehension is definitely not below mine. If this continues, the legacy of the chaotic star masters will definitely belong to him, Yi Xian murmured solemnly. Yi Xian knew very well that he was not stupid in terms of comprehension. On the contrary, he was very smart. However, with his current state of comprehension, there was no way he could catch up to Gai Tianyuan. At this moment, Yi Xian truly envied someone, and that person was Lu Bai. He was very certain that if Lu Bai were here, he would definitely surpass Gai Tianyuan in the shortest amount of time possible. After all, Lu Bai's talent was unparalleled throughout history. Unfortunately, Yi Xian knew that he was not Lu Bai. He did not have that kind of talent, so he could only rely on his own efforts to catch up to Gai Tianyuan. This won't do. Every single one of the last 9,000 plus restrictions is different. They can't be compared to the previous restrictions. If I want to comprehend all 9,000 plus restrictions, I'll need at least tens of millions of years. As for this Gai Tianyuan, he has been trapped here for at least 100 million years. He has spent every single day researching the primal chaos trial. This sort of terrifying accumulation is not something that I can catch up to. Yi Xian continued to ponder in his heart. He had already discovered a fact that he had no choice but to accept. Foundation. That's right, Gai Tianyuan's foundation. Gai Tianyuan was a monstrous genius from the same generation as the Lord of all spirits. Moreover, he possessed the heavenly origin battle body. Be it cultivation talent or comprehension ability, he was absolutely superior. Moreover, Gai Tianyuan had lived for an extremely long time. Whether it was in terms of experience or cultivation, Gai Tianyuan was far superior to Yi Xian. With all of these things added together, there was no way Yi Xian could catch up to him in the primal chaos trial. What to do? Yi Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. His heart grew heavier and heavier as he constantly pondered over various methods. Do I really have to give up? Yi Xian asked himself, then quickly rejected this idea. Such an enormous opportunity was right in front of him. He was unwilling to give it up just like that. No matter what, he had to try. As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. But despite Yi Xian's ambition, he still wasn't strong enough to catch up to Gai Tianyuan. This caused him to knit his brows and constantly ponder what other methods he could use. Time. I need time. If I have enough time, then even if my comprehension ability isn't as good as Brother White's, I can definitely catch up to Gai Tianyuan. Yi Xian muttered to himself in his sleep. Oh! Suddenly, Yi Xian's expression froze. A light flashed through his eyes, as if he had suddenly thought of something. Time. That's right. Time. I've already cultivated the power of space-time. If I can shorten the time needed to comprehend the array, then wouldn't I be able to catch up to Gai Tianyuan? Yi Xian slapped his forehead. A trace of excitement flashed through his eyes. But before Yi Xian could rejoice, he immediately calmed down and frowned again. But I've only just begun to grasp the power of space-time. And this primal chaos array has its own array. I'm afraid space-time won't be able to interfere with it. This path won't work at all. Yi Xian shook his head in disappointment. Although Yi Xian had rejected this idea, he didn't give up. Thinking of the power of space-time, he continued to ponder along this line of thought. After a few moments, his eyes lit up as he thought of an extremely bold idea. With my current cultivation, I can't stop the primal chaos array at all. But I can stop myself. Yi Xian muttered to himself. Yi Xian's idea was very simple. Since he couldn't stop the space-time of the outside world, then he could stop himself. It was like a year had passed in the outside world, but only a day had passed in his body. And in this day, he would have a year's worth of time to comprehend the primal chaos array before him. However, Yi Xian had never used this method before. He didn't know if this method would work. However, Yi Xian was a daring person. This was the only way for him to quickly comprehend the primal chaos array. He had to take the risk. Rumble. Yi Xian did as he said. The tree of space-time appeared and floated above his head. Strands of space-time power poured down, as if isolating him in an extremely narrow space-time. And this space-time flow was extremely slow. It was a completely different concept from the outside world. It really works. Yi Xian roared excitedly in his heart. However, his body couldn't move. Only his mind was operating normally. Under the effect of time stop, he had slowed himself down by hundreds of times. Time flowed faster than a year. This was enough for Yi Xian to comprehend the primal chaos array. Although his body was frozen, his mind wasn't affected. It was an unimaginable help for him to comprehend the primal chaos array. Comprehend, crazily comprehend. Under the 1-year time flow, Yi Xian quickly began to comprehend the array formation before him. In fact, Yi Xian didn't know that his method was the cultivation method of the space-time temple. In the space-time temple, there was a house of time. The flow of time there was 1 to 10,000. The reason why the space-time temple was so terrifying was greatly related to this house of time. Of course, this kind of time-slowing cultivation method wasn't perfect. It only allowed people to comprehend the cultivation method. It didn't increase their cultivation at all. Moreover, this kind of time-slowing cultivation method was extremely taxing on the mind. Too many people couldn't bear this kind of boring cultivation method and went crazy in the house of time. However, this kind of cultivation method was also extremely terrifying. It was a cultivation method that everyone envied. To make a simple analogy, if two people practiced the same cultivation method at the same time, and one person used 1 day as 10,000 years, his understanding and application of this cultivation method would be terrifying to the extreme. It wasn't something that the other person could compare to. Chapter 1145. At this moment, Yi Xian's situation was a little strange. He stood there without moving, as if he had become a statue. Even his eyes were lifeless. But Yi Xian's mind was working normally. He was constantly comprehending the chaos trial before him. Although his speed was the same as before, only a breath of time had passed in the outside world. On the other side, Gai Tianyuan was gradually comprehending the restriction array. He slightly turned his head to look behind him, and discovered that Yi Xian was frozen in place like a puppet. This caused him to sneer and say, "Stinking brat. Now you know how terrifying the primal chaos trial is, right? You have to know that I've been researching the primal chaos trial for 200 million years. It's just a fantasy for you to catch up." Another 300 years passed. Boom! A loud sound could be heard. Yi Xian walked out of the first restriction. Gai Tianyuan turned back to look at Yi Xian in shock. He never expected Yi Xian to walk out of the first restriction in just 300 years. Brat, you only used 100,000 years to walk out of the first 10 restrictions. I've underestimated you, Gai Tianyuan muttered in surprise. Back then, he had used 1,000,000 years to comprehend the first 10 restrictions. But today, Yi Xian only used 100,000 years. This shocked Gai Tianyuan to the core. However, Gai Tianyuan didn't care too much. He was already 10 times ahead of Yi Xian. Moreover, the later restrictions were harder to comprehend. He was confident that he could pass the Chaos Trial and obtain the Chaos Star Master's inheritance. Gai Tianyuan stopped paying attention to Yi Xian and focused on comprehending again. But what happened next completely stunned Gai Tianyuan. He felt as if he had entered a nightmare that he couldn't wake up from. Boom, boom, boom. Another 300 years passed. Yi Xian walked out of the 20th restriction. But this wasn't the end. 500 years later, Yi Xian walked out of the 30th restriction. Another 100 years passed. Yi Xian walked out of the 40th restriction. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. 5,000 years. 5,000 years was unimaginably long for mortals. But for the chaotic world, 5,000 years was just a snap of the fingers. And for Gai Tianyuan, it was not worth mentioning. But what did he see now? Yi Xian only used 5,000 years to pass through 90 seals. This was simply a fantasy to Gai Tianyuan. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed such a bizarre thing, even if he was beaten to death. How is that possible? How is that possible? Gai Tianyuan roared in fear, looking at Yi Xian with eyes full of fear. Even the legendary chaos spirit body wouldn't be able to pass through 90 chaos trials in 5,000 years. Who is he? No, there's no way you can surpass me. Gai Tianyuan howled madly as he once again tried to comprehend the restrictive formations. Unfortunately, before Gai Tianyuan could comprehend the 100th restriction, the sound of restrictions shattering constantly rang out from behind him. Yi Xian was rushing towards the 100th restriction. He was in like a hot knife through butter. Damn it! Damn it! Gai Tianyuan couldn't calm down at all. He was completely shocked by Yi Xian's aptitude. At the same time, Yi Xian had arrived at the 99th restriction. As long as he could comprehend this restriction, he would enter the 100th restriction and truly be on the same starting line as Gai Tianyuan. At this moment, Gai Tianyuan was no longer in the mood to comprehend the 100th restriction. He was waiting for Yi Xian's arrival with a murderous look. As long as Yi Xian stepped into the restriction he was in, he would definitely kill Yi Xian. Yi Xian's aptitude had already made Gai Tianyuan feel an unimaginable threat. Gai Tianyuan was even more certain that if he didn't kill Yi Xian, the Chaos Star Master's inheritance would definitely be obtained by this terrifying junior. Killing intent filled the sky and the divine light of creation. Gai Tianyuan stared fixedly at Yi Xian. As long as Yi Xian stepped into the 100th restriction formation, he would kill him without a burial ground. Time passed very quickly. 100 years later, Yi Xian had already stepped into the 100th restriction. Gai Tianyuan's ferocious look was on full display as he raised his 5 fingers. As long as Yi Xian entered completely, he would kill Yi Xian right there and then. Buzz! Yi Xian finally entered the restriction Gai Tianyuan was in. Die! The holy light of creation annihilated everything. Gai Tianyuan roared cruelly and slapped towards Yi Xian's head. Time accelerated by 10,000 times. Yi Xian's body didn't move, as if he was a clay statue. However, his voice reverberated in all directions. In the next instant, Gai Tianyuan's palm had already landed on Yi Xian's head. However, something strange happened. Yi Xian took a step forward and directly entered the 100th restriction. Gai Tianyuan's attack missed completely. Chi. The primal chaos trial was extremely dangerous. Gai Tianyuan's failure to kill Yi Xian directly triggered the backlash of the 100th restriction formation. The primal chaos light that pierced through the sky fell towards him, causing him an unimaginable calamity. Bang! Pft! The primal chaos light slammed into Gai Tianyuan's body, causing him to spit out blood. Even the holy light of creation around him shattered. Fortunately, Gai Tianyuan could still withstand the backlash of the primal chaos trial. He only suffered some light injuries and didn't lose his life. Yi Xian, you bastard, I will never forgive you. Gai Tianyuan's eyes were as red as blood. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at Yi Xian, who was in the 100th restriction formation. The hatred in his eyes was almost tangible. Puff! On the other side, Yi Xian's body was unsteady. He spat out blood, and his face was extremely pale. He collapsed weakly to the ground. Although his eyes had regained their vigor, they were dim and lifeless. No one knew what Yi Xian had experienced in the past 5,000 years. That endless loneliness had almost driven him crazy. In Gai Tianyuan's opinion, Yi Xian had only used 5,000 years to pass through the 100th restriction formation. However, in Yi Xian's consciousness, he had used close to 2 million years to comprehend the 100th restriction formation. 2 million years. Yi Xian was immersed in comprehending the primal chaos trial every day. That kind of dull and endless loneliness constantly gnawed away at his mind. He was mentally and physically exhausted, suffering unspeakably. He was completely isolated from the outside world. Day after day, he studied the formations and restrictions. The pain contained within was almost driving Yi Xian insane. And when he faced Gai Tianyuan's attack, he had slowed down time by 10,000 times. Only then did he step into the 100th restriction formation in an instant. However, it still caused terrifying damage to his mind and will. Fortunately, Yi Xian possessed great willpower that ordinary people didn't possess. He still managed to pull through. However, he needed to properly regulate his breathing. For the time being, he couldn't use time deceleration. Yi Xian, get the hell out here. Get the hell out here. Gai Tianyuan roared madly in the 100th restriction formation. His gaze towards Yi Xian was filled with terrifying killing intent. If he wasn't trapped in the restriction formation, he would have charged towards Yi Xian and turned Yi Xian's bones to dust. Unfortunately, the chaos trial was extremely dangerous. Gai Tianyuan didn't dare to act rashly. He could only roar in anger, but he couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. Trash, let's see how long you can be noisy for. Wait until I obtain the Chaos Star Master's inheritance. I'll definitely let you know how powerful I am. Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He had no intention of paying attention to Gai Tianyuan. Instead, he took out a handful of pills and a sea of chaos spirit stones to repair his damaged mind. Chapter 1146. You dog, I won't let you off. Gai Tianyuan roared at Yi Xian. His chest was about to explode from anger. Unfortunately for him, Yi Xian was already immersed in his cultivation, treating Gai Tianyuan like air. Looking at Yi Xian recovering from his injuries, Gai Tianyuan knew that no matter how much he cursed, it would be useless. He hurried to comprehend the 100th restriction, hoping that he could enter the 100th restriction before Yi Xian recovered. Then, he would turn Yi Xian into ashes. Time flowed like water, passing by in the blink of an eye. In a mere 100 years, Yi Xian used a sea of chaos spirit stones and pills to heal his damaged soul. His complexion was rosy again. Gai Tianyuan, you noisy trash, stay here. I'll go first. Yi Xian scolded and activated time deceleration again, continuing to comprehend the restrictions in front of him. Little dog, you've gone too far. Gai Tianyuan's face was ashen. He was fuming with anger at Yi Xian. In truth, Yi Xian didn't care about arguing. He was trying to provoke Gai Tianyuan. In order to comprehend the chaos trial, one had to remain calm. The angrier Gai Tianyuan was, the harder it would be for him to comprehend the chaos trial. This was Yi Xian's true goal. Boom! 300 years later, Yi Xian entered the next restriction, while Gai Tianyuan was still trapped in the 100th restriction. He roared in anger, no longer in the mood to continue. This was because Gai Tianyuan could tell that Yi Xian was trying to infuriate him. Moreover, the speed at which Yi Xian comprehended the formation was terrifying to the extreme. Even if he tried his best to catch up, he wouldn't be able to catch up to Yi Xian's footsteps. Yi Xian, you bastard, even if I can't obtain the Chaos Star Master's inheritance, don't even think about it. Rumble. Gai Tianyuan punched out with all his cultivation, blasting a hole in the 100th seal. He broke free from the seal and appeared on the mountain path outside. He then shot towards the peak of the mountain. Gai Tianyuan was indeed ruthless. He had decisively given up on the primal chaos trial. He wanted to wait for Yi Xian to completely pass the primal chaos trial. As long as the inheritance of a primal chaos star master appeared, he would immediately snatch it and kill Yi Xian. However, would it really be as simple as Gai Tianyuan imagined? On the other side, Yi Xian was still immersed in the primal chaos trial. In a state where time had slowed down, he continued to comprehend one restriction array after another. His speed clearly began to increase. 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years. Yi Xian's innate talent and perception were not high, so he used his time to make up for it. He endured unimaginable boredom and studied the grand Tao of array formations every day. Outsiders would not be able to understand the suffering he went through. To make a simple analogy, a person would do the same thing day after day for tens of millions of years. Just thinking about such a terrifying process would make one's scalp go numb. Although only 100,000 years had passed in the outside world, Yi Xian's mind felt that he had endured for more than 30 million years. In these 30 million years, he did nothing but study the primal chaos trial. Doing the same thing every day for more than 30 million years was enough to drive anyone crazy. Even if Yi Xian's mind was as firm as a rock, it almost caused him to collapse and die. Fortunately, Yi Xian still managed to endure it. In the primal chaos trial, it was not that he did not gain anything. His understanding of array formations had already reached an extremely terrifying level. To make a simple analogy, Liu Bai was known as a peerless genius in the Tao of array formations. No matter what array formation it was in his hands, he would be able to comprehend it by analogy, and even innovate, and create even more terrifying array formations. At this moment, Yi Xian was 100 times more terrifying than Lu Bai. He only needed a thought to use the power of primal chaos to set up a shocking array formation. Trap, seal, kill, destroy, illusion, confusion. As long as it was a formation, Yi Xian would be able to use it easily. His methods were unpredictable and shocking. These words were not enough to describe how terrifying Yi Xian's mastery of the great Tao of array formations was. There was no such thing as fairness in the world. People were born unequal. Lu Bai had a chaotic spirit body. His aptitude and talent were unprecedented. No matter what technique he learned, he would be able to learn it in one go. Even during his cultivation journey, he did not encounter any hardships. Yi Xian did not have such aptitude, but he was diligent enough. After tens of millions of years, his understanding of the great Tao of array formations in the primal chaos trial had already reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Lu Bai could not compare to him. This was the so-called diligence makes up for stupidity. It was also the truest portrayal of Yi Xian. 100,000 years had passed in the outside world, but Yi Xian had experienced 36,500,000 years in the slowing down of time. It was an extremely long and boring period, but it also allowed him to become an array formation grandmaster. At that moment, there were only 10 restrictions left before Yi Xian could pass the primal chaos trial. Phew! Yi Xian exhaled a turbid breath. He walked out of the slowing down of time. The last 10 trials could be said to be the 10 great arrays. Only by comprehending these 10 great arrays would he be able to see the Chaos Star Master's inheritance. Wang! Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void and began to recover his exhausted mind. He wanted to adjust his condition to the peak and pass the primal chaos trial in one go. Time passed very quickly. In just 10 years, Yi Xian's condition finally recovered. His essence, energy, and spirit reached the peak. Time slowing down. The tree of space-time swayed as Yi Xian began to comprehend once again. When he walked out of the slowing down of time, he would pass the primal chaos trial. Peak of Mt Tianyuan. Gai Tianyuan sat cross-legged in the void. He had waited for 100,000 years. Every day, apart from recovering his remnant soul, he was waiting for Yi Xian to walk out of the primal chaos trial. In fact, Gai Tianyuan really hoped that Yi Xian would fail. However, there seemed to be a voice in the unseen world telling him that Yi Xian would definitely pass the primal chaos trial. Gai Tianyuan believed in his intuition, because Yi Xian's methods left him flabbergasted. It also made him feel an extreme sense of dread. Not to mention the 3 supreme powers. Just Yi Xian's speed of comprehending the primal chaos trial shocked him. Gai Tianyuan was very sure that even if the myriad spirit heaven lord were to pass the primal chaos trial, he definitely wouldn't be able to compare to Yi Xian. What kind of monster is this guy? How can he comprehend the primal chaos trial so quickly? Gai Tianyuan muttered to himself as great dread flashed across his eyes. Wait! All Gai Tianyuan could do was wait. Regardless of whether Yi Xian succeeded or failed, he had to kill Yi Xian because Yi Xian actually made him feel uneasy. Yi Xian was the second person to make him feel uneasy, and the first person was the Lord of all spirits from back then. Impressive kid. I have to say that if it weren't for the fact that you only have a mortal body, I would have believed you to be the next Yuan Hui. Gai Tianyuan murmured with mixed feelings. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky above the Tianyuan kingdom darkened. Terrifying bolts of primal chaos lightning streaked across the sky. The countless bolts of lightning wreaked havoc, as if they were about to shatter the world. A primal chaos mutation? Has he really passed the primal chaos trial? Gai Tianyuan rose to his feet in shock. He stared at the dark, lightless sky, and was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1147. At the same time, it wasn't just the Tianyuan kingdom that was changing. The sky of the entire chaotic world dimmed as terrifying chaos lightning wreaked havoc across the world. The earth-shattering sound of thunder made all living beings in the chaotic world tremble. Central region Myriad Spirit Palace. A milky white figure stood with his hands behind his back. His entire body was covered by a milky white halo, making it impossible for others to see his appearance. Lord of all spirits, the strongest of the 10th Eon, who had been in charge of the 10th Eon for 183 million years. He was the strongest person in the 10th Eon. The chaotic star master of this Eon has appeared. The Lord of all spirits muttered hoarsely before slowly shaking his head. No matter who becomes a chaotic star master, they will have to listen to my orders. I hope you won't oppose me. Men. Lord. A young girl covered in spiritual light walked out of the void and knelt before the Lord of all spirits. Violet Spirit, help me find the new chaotic star master and bring him to the Myriad Spirit Palace. I want to see him, the Lord of all spirits said calmly. As you command, Lord. The young girl Violet Spirit kowtowed before disappearing from the Myriad Spirit Palace in a purple light. With chaos as the chessboard and all living beings as chess pieces, the chaotic star master is known as the chess player. However, even the 10th Eon has submitted to me. Even the chaotic star master is no exception, the Lord of all spirits muttered. At the same time, the other 9 supreme temples also had huge changes, but these changes were extremely weak and disappeared without a trace. After all, the 10th Eon was under the control of the Myriad Spirit Palace. The 9 supreme temples were aloof from worldly affairs. As long as they weren't implicated, they naturally wouldn't make any big moves. Tianyuan Kingdom. Lightning covered the sky as the sky exploded. Terrifying stars rotated in the sky, pouring down endless starlight that drowned the entire Tianyuan Kingdom. Chaotic star power? Is this the legendary chaotic star power that only chaotic star masters can control? Gai Tianyuan trembled as he roared. He was in an extremely excited state. Rumble. The sky gradually cracked open, and a simple and unadorned stone book fell down. This stone book shone with resplendent starlight, and it was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. The inheritance of a chaos star master? Gai Tianyuan's eyes were bloodshot as he let out an excited roar. He turned into a streak of light and shot toward the stone book. He clearly wanted to take the chaos star master's inheritance for himself. Chi. Something strange happened. Gai Tianyuan's palm actually passed through the stone book. It was as if the stone book was just a mass of air that he couldn't touch. What's going on? How could this be? The Chaos Star Master inheritance was right in front of him, yet Gai Tianyuan couldn't get it. This made his eyes turn red as he roared furiously. Rumble. Suddenly, Tongtian starlight fell from the stone book. Yi Xian slowly walked out of the primal chaos trial. He faced the starlight and walked through the sky. He only stopped when he appeared beside the stone book. This is the inheritance of a chaos star master? Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Something shocking happened. Yi Xian gently held the stone book in his hand. Extremely dazzling starlight covered it. An indescribable aura erupted from Yi Xian's body. Desolate, vast, and indescribable majestic aura were all emitted from Yi Xian's body. Little thief, put down the stone book. Suddenly, Gai Tianyuan crazily roared as a terrifying divine light of creation crazily smashed towards Yi Xian. From the looks of it, it seemed as if he wanted to tear Yi Xian apart. Something strange happened again. Gai Tianyuan's attack directly passed through Yi Xian's body. It was as if Yi Xian was a mass of air and couldn't cause any damage to him. No, it wasn't that Yi Xian was air. It was that Yi Xian and Gai Tianyuan didn't even exist in the same world. They were so close yet worlds apart. Although Gai Tianyuan could see Yi Xian and the stone book, Yi Xian was in the world of the chaos trial. This was also why the chaos trial was so terrifying. Not to mention that Gai Tianyuan was only at the creation stage. Even if he was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to harm Yi Xian in the slightest. Clearly, if someone passed the chaos trial would protect that person. How could it allow someone to kill them halfway? Unless Gai Tianyuan passed the chaos trial like Yi Xian, he wouldn't be able to touch Yi Xian at all. Unfortunately, Gai Tianyuan would never have this chance. At this moment, Gai Tianyuan also came to a realization. His eyes were scarlet red as he stared at Yi Xian. His steel teeth creaked as he looked at Yi Xian. He wished he could eat his flesh and drink his blood. Little thief, the Chaos Star Master inheritance is mine. Come out and give it to me right now, and I'll let you live. Gai Tianyuan roared. Idiot. Yi Xian held the stone book in his hand, and didn't even look at Gai Tianyuan. He treated him like air, and started reading the stone book in his hand. Wah! Gai Tianyuan spat out a mouthful of blood due to anger. At this moment, Gai Tianyuan wanted to slap himself twice. His heart was filled with regret. It was as if he had personally given the Chaos Star Master inheritance to Yi Xian. If he had known that Yi Xian could pass the Chaos Trial, he wouldn't have told Yi Xian about the Chaos Star Master's secret. Mine. This stone book is mine. Wah! Gai Tianyuan clutched his chest and roared in grief. Blood couldn't help but spurt out of his mouth. He was actually angered by Yi Xian to the point that he suffered internal injuries, and even showed signs of going berserk. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't pay any attention to Gai Tianyuan. All his attention was on the stone book in his hand. His eyes were shining, as if he had discovered a peerless treasure. Yi Xian muttered in astonishment, his eyes shining brightly. He was clearly shocked by the contents of the stone book. Chaos as the plate, stars as the seed. What arrogance! You don't have to be so smug, little thief. This chaos trial can last for 10,000 years at most. After 10,000 years, the chaos trial will disappear. It will only reappear in the chaos universe when the 11th Aeon opens. I advise you to give me the stone book now. Otherwise, I'll take your life after 10,000 years. Gai Tianyuan roared crazily. Oh! Yi Xian finally retracted his gaze from the stone book, and put it back into his pouch. Only then did he look at Gai Tianyuan. I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. Thank you for the reminder. Yi Xian chuckled, then sat down cross-legged. A heavenly yuan pill appeared in his hand, and was swallowed by Yi Xian in a single gulp. Gai Tianyuan instantly understood when he saw Yi Xian swallow the pill. Clearly, Yi Xian wanted to become a sacred king within 10,000 years. It's useless. Even if you become a sacred king, you'll still die at my hands. Gai Tianyuan roared furiously. Unfortunately, Yi Xian ignored Gai Tianyuan's threat. The heaven origin pill in his body had already exploded. A terrifying energy surged through his body. Chapter 1148. Like a surging sea or a volcanic eruption, Yi Xian's body swelled like a rubber ball. Terrifying veins squirmed all over his body. His skin turned fiery red, as if it was about to explode. His accumulation and potential were limitless. The roar of a sea of thunder exploded in Yi Xian's body. An extremely terrifying aura burst out in all directions with Yi Xian as the center. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared in all directions, as if the world was about to collapse. The primary heaven pill was as famous as the heaven mending pill. The energy it contained was extremely pure. It washed over Yi Xian's body like a vast sea, causing him to undergo a qualitative transformation. Roar! Yi Xian suddenly roared. An extremely terrifying aura rolled out from his mouth. Even Gai Tianyuan, who was outside, had a drastic change in expression. He looked at Yi Xian with shock in his eyes. What a terrifying power! Gai Tianyuan muttered to himself in shock and anger. He couldn't believe that Yi Xian, who was just an ordinary person, could display such terrifying power in order to break through to the Saint King realm. This kid's cultivation foundation is terrifyingly deep. Even when I broke through to the Saint King realm, I didn't have such a terrifying aura. But he's just an ordinary person. How can he cultivate to such a level? The more he interacted with Yi Xian, the more Gai Tianyuan couldn't see through Yi Xian. He only felt that Yi Xian was like a fog that brought him too much shock and amazement. Rumble! Yi Xian's body was exploding. Chaotic holy light circulated. His face alternated between red and purple, as if he was enduring some kind of pain. In fact, it was an extremely long process to break through from the Great Saint realm to the Saint King realm. It was a gradual process. Logically speaking, if an ordinary Great Saint took the primary heaven pill, they would need to slowly refine it. This was because the primary heaven pill's medicinal properties were extremely overbearing. If they absorbed it too quickly, it would damage their inner palace. It would take at least 50,000 years. However, Yi Xian was different. The the chaotic trial would disappear in 10,000 years. Therefore, he had to refine the primary heaven pill within 10,000 years and step into the Saint King realm in one fell swoop. Only then could he resist Gai Tianyuan's killing intent. Fortunately, Yi Xian had passed the chaotic holy tribulation. His body was abnormally strong. Although the primary heaven pill's medicinal properties were overbearing, it couldn't damage his inner palace. 10,000 years was enough for him to step into the Saint King realm. So, time quickly passed. The 10,000-year period was about to arrive. The primal chaos smelting trial also began to shake, as if it would disappear at any moment. Damn thief, I will definitely cut you into 8 pieces. Feeling the changes in the primal chaos trial, Gai Tianyuan's face went wild with joy. He fiercely glared at Yi Xian, as an extremely terrifying killing intent emanated from him. Boom! The chaotic trial finally disappeared, and Yi Xian's figure appeared. However, at that moment, a thunderous roar erupted from Yi Xian's mouth. Break! Crack! Some sort of shackle within Yi Xian's body shattered, and an extremely terrifying aura exploded out from his body. Strands of Saint King power circulated around his body, and he finally stepped into the Saint King realm at this critical moment. So what if you've stepped into the Saint King realm? I'll make sure you die a horrible death today. Gai Tianyuan roared ferociously. He didn't care if Yi Xian was a great saint or a Saint King realm. As long as Yi Xian didn't surpass the creation realm, he would definitely kill him. Primary heaven finger. Buzz! Gai Tianyuan roared coldly. A golden light appeared on his fingertip, and he pointed it at Yi Xian. Bang! Something extremely frightening happened. Gai Tianyuan's finger shattered the space. The golden light seemed to be able to destroy everything. It was as if it was going to turn Yi Xian into ashes in the next moment. Square heaven and square earth. Yi Xian's expression didn't change. He tapped the void with the tip of his foot and retreated continuously. A spot of chaotic starlight appeared on his fingertip and drew mysterious runes in front of him. Chi! 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 Heaven and earth turned upside down. A terrifying formation appeared in front of Yi Xian. The formation runes intertwined with starlight like a prison and pressed down on Gai Tianyuan. Bang! The starlight prison and the heavenly origin finger collided. After an earth-shattering explosion, the two great techniques shattered into smoke. However, the terrifying shockwaves that blossomed from the collision sent the two of them flying backwards. Is this all you've got? Yi Xian put his hands behind his back and looked at Gai Tianyuan with disdain. Grand Array technique? Gai Tianyuan's face darkened. Yi Xian's attack was a skill he had learned in the primal chaos trial. He didn't expect Yi Xian to use it on him. Gai Tianyuan also knew how to draw a formation out of thin air. Although he hadn't passed the primal chaos trial, he had walked through more than 9,000 formations. This kid couldn't be allowed to live. Gai Tianyuan roared in fear. Yi Xian could already draw a formation out of thin air, without cultivating the primal chaos Star Master's inheritance. If he cultivated the stone book, Gai Tianyuan was afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop him. Kill! Gai Tianyuan was no longer at his peak, but he was now in the creation realm. This was a full realm higher than Yi Xian. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill Yi Xian. Nirvana. Once Yi Xian became a Saint King, he wouldn't compromise. He used the power of Nirvana to kill Gai Tianyuan in one fell swoop. Little dog, if you had the Nirvana battle body, with the Nirvana power you just cultivated, I might be afraid of you. But with your mortal body, you want to use the Nirvana power to fight me? You are still far from it. Infinite Sky Primordial. Gai Tianyuan roared. He put his hands together and formed a semicircle. A terrifying golden light covered him as he charged at Yi Xian. The Sky Primordial battle body wasn't one of the 12 strongest battle bodies in the primal chaos, but it was still one of the most difficult bodies to deal with. Gai Tianyuan didn't think much of Yi Xian, but he was still wary of the power of Nirvana. He quickly dodged Yi Xian's attack and used the grand art of Tianyuan to attack Yi Xian. It was a fight to the death. Gai Tianyuan wasn't the only one who wanted to kill Yi Xian. Yi Xian wanted to kill Gai Tianyuan too. Yi Xian didn't want to be passive. The reason was simple. Yi Xian had the power of time and space, and the power of nirvana. These were his biggest secrets. Now that he had obtained the inheritance of a Chaos Star Master, if Gai Tianyuan walked out of the outside world alive and exposed his secret to the public, all the living beings in the primal chaos world would probably kill him. Similarly, Yi Xian also knew Gai Tianyuan's true identity. Gai Tianyuan couldn't let Yi Xian expose his identity. Otherwise, the 10,000 Spirit Palace wouldn't let him go. Bang! 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 Heaven and earth shook. The light was dazzling. Every blow from the two caused the void to shatter. The entire Tianyuan kingdom was gradually reduced to ruins as the two fought. Tianyuan finger. Great demonic fist. Fist and finger collided, causing heaven and earth to shatter. The two of them fought in a frenzy, using all sorts of vicious killing methods in order to kill the other. Chapter 1149. Brat, you're cultivating the Immortal Heaven technique. How dare you say you have nothing to do with the Immortal Heaven Palace? Gai Tianyuan roared violently as he crazily charged towards Yi Xian. However, his eyes trembled as he looked at Yi Xian with increasingly fearful eyes. The immortal scripture was just a name in the three realms. In the chaotic world, the real name of this cultivation method was the Immortal Heaven technique. It was one of the 12 most powerful cultivation methods in the chaotic universe. As for the various killing techniques that Yi Xian used, they all originated from the Undying Heaven art. How could Gai Tianyuan not recognize this technique? Cut the crap. Go to hell. Spacetime Nirvana. The spacetime tree was swaying, and the Nirvana power was rolling. The two supreme powers burst out at the same time and attacked Gai Tianyuan. Using two supreme powers at the same time was extremely taxing for Yi Xian. However, in order to kill Gai Tianyuan, all of this wasn't that important. Infinite Tianyuan. Gai Tianyuan roared in fear and golden light rose around him to protect his body. However, in the face of two supreme powers, his Tianyuan combat body was like paper. Bang! There was a loud explosion, and the earth was turned upside down. Gai Tianyuan's body exploded. He could not resist the two supreme powers and turned into a bloody mist. Heavenly Freedom Technique. Rumble. Wisps of black smoke gathered together, and Gai Tianyuan appeared again. However, he had lost his body and was only in the form of a remnant soul. Go to hell. Yi Xian smiled sinisterly. He took a step forward and instantly appeared beside Gai Tianyuan. With a single slap, he shattered Gai Tianyuan's soul. You can't kill me. Even the Lord of all spirits could not kill me. How can you, a mere mortal body, kill me? Whoosh! Gai Tianyuan's remnant soul appeared again and roared at Yi Xian. An extremely strange aura circulated around his remnant soul. Yi Xian frowned as he studied Gai Tianyuan. He didn't understand why he couldn't destroy Gai Tianyuan's soul fragment. Boundless heavenly origin, myriad laws coexistence. This is the heavenly origin battle body. Even if I'm only left with a strand of my soul, you can't kill me. Gai Tianyuan sneered. What a pity. The power of nirvana is the nemesis of the heavenly origin battle body. It could have destroyed my soul. Too bad you've only just mastered it. If you could master the real use of the power of nirvana, I might have died in your hands today, Gai Tianyuan said in a cold voice. Yi Xian frowned when he heard Gai Tianyuan's words. He knew that Gai Tianyuan wasn't lying. He was indeed extremely unfamiliar with the use of nirvanic energy. He had only figured it out bit by bit, so it naturally posed no threat to an old monster like Gai Tianyuan. So what if I can't kill you? You can't do anything to me either. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Ha ha ha. He looked at Yi Xian with fear in his eyes. 9-colored heavenly lightning? 5-colored mysterious flame? Could it be? Could it be? Could it be that you are going through a variant of the chaotic divine tribulation? Gai Tianyuan seemed to have thought of something terrible. He looked at Yi Xian in horror as a heaviness that he had never felt before pressed down on him. He understood. He completely understood. Gai Tianyuan finally understood why Yi Xian's cultivation was so terrifying even though he only had a mortal body. It was not the power of nirvana, or the power of time and space. It turned out that Yi Xian was going through the chaotic divine tribulation, which only happened to the strongest throughout the ages. That was why he was so terrifying in the Great Saint realm. Impossible. How is this possible? You are just a mortal. How could you attract the strongest chaotic divine tribulation? Could it be that you will be the strongest in the next Yuanhui era? Gai Tianyuan trembled as he shouted. He could not believe what he had guessed. No, absolutely not. You're just a mortal. At most, you can only cultivate to the 3 realms of creation. Even if you can break the curse of your mortal body and become the strongest of all time in the 11th Yuanhui, I've never heard of anyone who can refine the 9-colored divine lightning and 5-colored profound flame for their own use. Gai Tianyuan seemed to have gone crazy. He thought of all kinds of terrible legends and screamed shrilly. Chapter 1150. 9-colored divine lightning and 5-colored mystical fire. They were products of the chaotic universe and extremely powerful heavenly tribulations. If Gai Tianyuan had been at his peak and hadn't been killed by the Lord of all spirits, he wouldn't have cared about the 9-colored divine lightning and 5-colored mystical fire at all. Unfortunately, he was only left with a wisp of his soul. He was most afraid of this kind of chaos tribulation because the 9-colored divine lightning and 5-colored mystical fire would cause unimaginable damage to his soul. Scared. Very scared. He was terrified to the extreme. Gai Tianyuan was trembling, feeling the fear of death. He could feel the extreme killing intent in Yi Xian's eyes. What do you want? Gai Tianyuan asked in a trembling voice. What do I want? Yi Xian smiled, but his smile was extremely cold. The 5-colored mystical fire and the 9-colored divine lightning shot toward Gai Tianyuan. This was Yi Xian's answer. Run. Gai Tianyuan didn't waste any time talking nonsense, nor did he say anything to Yi Xian. He turned and fled. Facing the 5-colored mystical fire and the 9-colored divine lightning, he was completely at risk of being killed. After all, the 2 heavenly tribulations were products of the chaotic universe and could cause terrible damage to the soul. Although Gai Tianyuan had escaped in time, he was still injured by the 2 heavenly tribulations. I'll take your life. Yi Xian sneered sinisterly. He activated the power of time and space and caught up to Gai Tianyuan in an instant. He struck out with the 9-colored divine lightning, which directly weakened Gai Tianyuan's soul. Bastard, I'll fight you to the death, Gai Tianyuan roared. After being hit by the 9-colored divine lightning and the 5-colored mystical fire, his soul had suffered unimaginable damage. But it had to be said that even though Gai Tianyuan only had a wisp of his soul left, he was still very powerful. Although the 2 heavenly tribulations had caused unimaginable damage to him, they hadn't killed him immediately. It made sense. How could someone who could compete with the Lord of all spirits be killed so easily by Yi Xian? Gai Tianyuan had lived for far too long, and he also had the heavenly origin combat body. Be it cultivation-based, secret arts, or forbidden arts, he was proficient in all of them. Just this foundation alone was not something Yi Xian could compare with. Thief, you forced me to do this. Gai Tianyuan fled in shame and anger, enduring the attacks of the 2 heavenly tribulations. A strand of his remnant soul was emitting a terrifying golden light, as if he was about to activate some kind of terrifying forbidden technique. Heaven origin disintegration technique. Boom! Gai Tianyuan's remnant soul exploded and turned into black smoke that shot out in all directions, disappearing from Yi Xian's sight in an instant. Yi Xian's face changed. Although he had no idea what technique Gai Tianyuan had used, Yi Xian could sense that Gai Tianyuan's presence had split into countless strands. He had no idea which one was the real Gai Tianyuan. I can't let him escape, or there'll be trouble, Yi Xian muttered coldly. Gai Tianyuan knew far too many of his secrets. If he leaked these secrets, Yi Xian would definitely attract the attention of everyone. When that happened, there would be countless problems. Boom! Yi Xian had no other choice. He directly used his powers of space-time to get ahead of Gai Tianyuan and stop him at the entrance of the Tianyuan kingdom. It had to be said that the powers of space-time were truly terrifying. Yi Xian took a single step and directly passed through the Tianyuan kingdom. He stared at the exit of the Tianyuan kingdom, Yi Xian was extremely confident that no matter how many strands Gai Tianyuan had split into, he would definitely leave through the exit. After all, Gai Tianyuan did not have the powers of space-time, so he was unable to pass through space like Yi Xian. On the other side, in the Tianyuan kingdom, Gai Tianyuan and Yi Xian were only separated by a door. He could completely see that Yi Xian had blocked the exit. This made his expression turn sinister, as he constantly pondered over how to deal with the situation. You despicable, shameless thief. Do you think you can find me just by blocking the exit? Gai Tianyuan muttered coldly as a vicious glint flashed through his eyes. The primal chaos trial has already vanished. It will only appear again in the next Yuanhui. The Tianyuan kingdom is already useless. I'd like to see if you can withstand the self-destruction of the Tianyuan kingdom. Gai Tianyuan was definitely a vicious person. He suddenly raised his hand as he chanted, as if he was activating some terrifying seal. Explode! Rumble! The world shook as mountains and rivers collapsed. Gai Tianyuan had directly activated the Tianyuan kingdom's self-destruction array. He had created this miniature world many years ago, so it was naturally easy for him to make the Tianyuan kingdom self-destruct. And the power produced by the self-destruction of the Tianyuan kingdom would bring about an extremely terrifying calamity to Yi Xian. This was Gai Tianyuan's vicious method, the exit of the outside world. Yi Xian frowned as his heart skipped a beat. He had an extremely bad feeling. Oh no! Yi Xian let out a low roar as he activated the power of space and time. His entire body retreated hundreds of millions of kilometers. And in the next moment, the exit of the heavenly Yuan kingdom exploded. An extremely terrifying power burst out, blowing up all the yellow sand in the outside world, causing the entire world to fall into an extremely turbid illusion. Yi Xian, you little thief, just you wait. Once I find a suitable body, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Gai Tianyuan's angry roar could be heard in the cloudy sandstorm, and then it quickly dissipated in the sandstorm. You can't escape. Yi Xian roared coldly as he pushed his Saint King cultivation to its limits. He pushed his space-time force madly, because Yi Xian could already sense an extremely great threat. If Gai Tianyuan escaped today, it would be a huge problem in the future. This kind of old monster had a deep foundation, and would be a great threat if he hid in the dark. Therefore, Yi Xian could not let him escape. Rumble! Yi Xian pushed his space-time force and chased after Gai Tianyuan. However, Gai Tianyuan had expected that Yi Xian would not let him go. He immediately used a secret technique to escape from the Tianyuan kingdom. The Great Nanda domain was vast, and could not be compared to the small Tianyuan kingdom. Gai Tianyuan's escape was like a fish in the sea. Damn it! Yi Xian ran for hundreds of millions of kilometers, and could no longer see any trace of Gai Tianyuan. When he punched out, a vast mountain was blasted into dust, proving how furious Yi Xian was. You can't escape. You can't escape. Yi Xian growled viciously as his murderous intent surged. Go! Yi Xian did not stop at all. He turned into a stream of light, and headed toward the holy land of Taichu. Yi Xian believed that Gai Tianyuan had taken over Saint King Tailing's body. Although he had destroyed Saint King Tailing's body, and left Gai Tianyuan with a wisp of his soul, Gai Tianyuan would definitely have left something behind in the holy land of Taichu. It had been nearly 1,000,000 years since Yi Xian entered the Tianyuan kingdom. He did not know that a big trouble was approaching him. In the holy land of Taichu. Tell me, is there a secret chamber or forbidden area in the holy land of Taichu? In the Taichu training ground, thousands of Taichu disciples were kneeling on the ground. Yi Xian stood in the center, holding an elder's neck with one hand, and questioning him fiercely. Chapter 1151. I don't know. The elder of Taichu answered with a trembling voice. You don't know? Then you can go to hell. Crack! Yi Xian's expression was gloomy. His 5 fingers exploded with a terrifying force, as he forcefully broke the other party's neck. He casually plucked off the other party's head, and threw it to the ground like trash. Bang! A headless body fell at Yi Xian's feet. A lot of blood sprayed out, making Yi Xian look even more ferocious. All the disciples of the holy land of Taichu were trembling. I'll only give you 3 breaths to tell me where the forbidden area and secret chamber of the holy land of Taichu are. If no one answers my question after 3 breaths, then all of you will die here. Yi Xian looked around at the disciples of the holy land of Taichu coldly. He slowly raised his 5 fingers, as if he would kill all of them in the next moment. 1, 2. Senior, we're just ordinary disciples. We really don't know where the forbidden area and secret chamber are. A large number of Taichu disciples cried and begged, but Yi Xian was not moved at all. 3. Yi Xian said coldly. His 5 fingers were already blooming with terrifying light. The next moment, the holy land of Taichu would be buried in his hands. Senior, I know. Please quell your anger for a moment. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was about to destroy the sect, a little saint crawled to Yi Xian's feet and kept kowtowing to Yi Xian and crying. Who are you? Yi Xian's murderous intent disappeared. He narrowed his eyes and looked down at the person under his feet. I'm Hitayan. I was ordered to guard the forbidden area. The little saint hurriedly replied. Good. Yi Xian's eyes lit up, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. But in the next moment, he stretched out his 5 fingers and completely crushed the void between heaven and earth. Bang, bang, bang. The world exploded continuously. Thousands of disciples of the holy land of Taichu all exploded into a mist of blood. A large number of broken limbs fell down. Yi Xian killed them all with 1 blow. Hitayan screamed in horror. He didn't expect Yi Xian to kill people just like that. This terrified him to the extreme. Let's go. Take me to the absolute beginning forbidden land. Yi Xian smiled after killing the man. He directly picked up Hitayan and asked him to take him to the absolute beginning forbidden land. The forbidden land of absolute beginning was a restriction, and Hitayan didn't know how to open it. However, to Yi Xian, who had spent tens of millions of years studying formations and restrictions in the primal chaos trial, he could be called a grandmaster of formations. This restriction was naturally easy for him to break. Open! Yi Xian pointed at the sky and drew the earth, reversing the heaven and earth. With a point of his finger, he outlined the mysterious formation patterns and unlocked the restriction in an instant. Senior, can I leave now? Hitayan trembled as he begged. Since you brought me here, I'll leave your corpse intact. Yi Xian smiled coldly. You didn't keep your word, you. Hitayan continuously retreated as he furiously roared at Yi Xian. He originally thought that if he brought Yi Xian here, the other party would spare his life. I never said that I would spare your life if you brought me here, Yi Xian coldly said. He pointed out a finger and pierced through Hitayan's forehead, causing him to turn into a corpse that fell at his feet. In fact, it didn't matter to Yi Xian whether he killed Hitayan or not. It was just that Yi Xian didn't want to expose his whereabouts. So all the people of the absolute beginning forbidden land had to die. This was also something he had decided. Boom! Yi Xian stepped out and directly entered the absolute beginning forbidden land. The absolute beginning forbidden land. It was actually just a small independent space that contained all the treasures of the absolute beginning holy land. Chaos spirit stones, spiritual weapons, cultivation methods, elixirs, and many other spiritual items. Yi Xian was very short of cultivation resources, so he naturally wouldn't let go of these things. He took them all for himself. Of course, Yi Xian didn't enter the absolute beginning forbidden land for these cultivation resources. He wanted to find the backup plan left by Gai Tianyuan, because Yi Xian believed that Gai Tianyuan must have done something after occupying the body of Sage King Tailing for tens of millions of years. It's here. Sure enough, as Yi Xian continued to go deeper, a flashing body appeared in front of him, and 2 jade boxes were placed on both sides. Yi Xian walked up quickly and came to the lifeless body. A sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What a great body. It seems that this is the backup plan you prepared for yourself? Yi Xian sneered. Bang! Yi Xian slapped out and directly smashed the body in front of him. Only then did Yi Xian show a satisfied smile on his face. On the other side, in the belly of a mountain hundreds of millions of miles away from the holy land of Taichu, a water screen was showing the scene of Yi Xian destroying the body. Gai Tianyuan's face was cold as he watched this scene, and his whole body was filled with extreme coldness. You little thief, remember this. I'll make sure you die a horrible death in the future. Gai Tianyuan roared in anger. This was because this body was compatible with his remnant soul. He'd searched for a full 30 million years to find such a body, but now that it was completely destroyed by Yi Xian, how could he not be furious to the extreme? However, Gai Tianyuan was indeed a scheming person. Although he tried his best to rush to the holy land of Taichu, Yi Xian still arrived one step ahead of him. Yi Xian used the power of time and space, and the speed of his space travel was not something he could compare with. This made Gai Tianyuan extremely helpless. It doesn't matter if the body is destroyed, but I really shouldn't have left those 2 secret methods there. They've benefited this little thief, Gai Tianyuan whispered hatefully. Gai Tianyuan's face was obviously pained. Obviously, the methods that he valued must be extraordinary. However, even if he wanted to take them back now, he didn't dare to appear in front of Yi Xian. You little thief, just you wait. When I find a body compatible with my remnant soul, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Gai Tianyuan growled hatefully. In the forbidden land of Taichu, after destroying the body left by Gai Tianyuan, Yi Xian finally set his eyes on the 2 jade boxes. This made his eyes light up, wondering what treasures were in these 2 jade boxes. Yi Xian was very smart. Gai Tianyuan could put the 2 jade boxes together with the body he found, which proved that the things in the jade boxes must be extremely precious. Crack! Yi Xian didn't hesitate in the slightest as he directly opened the first jade box. He saw a jade slip flickering with golden light within. Yi Xian picked up the jade slip and sank his consciousness into it. After a few dozen seconds, he came back to his senses. Tianyuan combat method? It looks like this is Gai Tianyuan's cultivation method. This Tianyuan combat method is only suitable for the Tianyuan combat body. It's not very useful to me, but I can use it as a reference. Perhaps I can find traces of Gai Tianyuan from this cultivation method, Yi Xian murmured. He casually put the golden jade slip into his bag. Let me see what this second jade box contains. Yi Xian casually opened the second jade box and saw a page of scripture appear. It was releasing mysterious ripples. Oh! Yi Xian was slightly surprised. Most cultivation methods and secret techniques were recorded in jade slips, but this page of scripture had a mysterious aura. It was clearly not ordinary. Yi Xian hesitated for a few seconds before gently picking up the page of scripture. The 4 large words reflected in his eyes, and Yi Xian read them out loud. Body external transformation. Chapter 1152. This? Yi Xian was obviously stunned, and his expression became extremely strange. He looked at the scripture in his hand with an extremely complicated expression. Outer body incarnation. This was a great divine sense that had been passed down in the chaotic world. This secret method could be called a peerless treasure. Except for some ancient sects that still had this divine sense was almost extinct. Yi Xian had read through the history books in the Miofa kingdom. Naturally, he had seen the introduction of outer body incarnation. However, Yi Xian did not take it seriously at first. He only thought that outer body incarnation was just a small skill, just like the I Chi turning 3 pure ones used by Lao Tzu when he was in the 3 realms. Both were roughly the same. However, when Yi Xian finished reading the introduction of outer body incarnation, he immediately knew that he was very wrong. Outer body incarnation was an extremely powerful divine sense, and it was not comparable to Lao Tzu's I Chi turning 3 pure ones. Lao Tzu's I Chi turning 3 pure ones was just a division of 3 original Qi essences. It could increase one's strength for a short period of time, and then it would dissipate. However, outer body incarnation was different. If the outer body incarnation was successfully cultivated, it was equivalent to creating another self. This avatar would be extremely loyal to the original self, and would have its own consciousness. Moreover, the avatar could cultivate on its own, and there were too many mysteries in it. The most important thing was that the outer body incarnation had a nature-defying ability, and that was, it could die for others. Yes, it could die for others. To make a simple analogy, if Yi Xian encountered a death tribulation, he could directly transfer it to his avatar. This death tribulation would also be borne by his avatar, and the original self could escape with his life. No matter if it was a tribulation, qigong deviation, or encountering an undefeatable enemy, the avatar could die for the original self. Not to mention anything else, just this point alone showed the horror of outer body incarnation. However, such an extremely powerful divine sense was only possessed by those ancient sects in the chaotic world. Naturally, Yi Xian could not have obtained it. However, Yi Xian didn't expect that he would actually obtain the great divine ability of an avatar here. This caused his emotions to be extremely complicated. Some people might ask why Yi Xian didn't feel any joy after obtaining such a powerful divine ability. Instead, he felt complicated. The reason was simple. There were very few people who could cultivate outer body incarnation, and it was said that there was a slim chance of survival. Throughout the entire chaotic world, there were only a handful of people who could cultivate outer body incarnation. Look at Gai Tianyuan. He was able to contend against the Lord of all spirits in the past, but even he didn't manage to cultivate an avatar. Otherwise, he wouldn't have died at the hands of the Lord of all spirits, with only a wisp of his soul remaining. Firstly, if one wanted to cultivate an external avatar, then one required the chaotic 5-elemental rock as the main material, various chaotic spirit essences, and one had to cultivate painstakingly for 10,000 years before one could truly create an external avatar. This sounded very simple, but the difficulty involved was not something that outsiders could imagine. The chaotic 5-elemental rock was divided into metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. These 5 kinds of chaotic spirit stones were rare treasures. Few people could gather the chaotic 5-elemental rock together, and it required a huge amount of chaotic spirit essences. Of course, the chaotic world was never short of these treasures. Naturally, these materials could also be collected in those ancient sections. But the most important point was that even if one used these materials to create an external avatar, it was extremely dangerous to cultivate it with 10,000 years of painstaking effort. The cultivator had to plant his painstaking effort in the body of the external avatar, and it would take 10,000 years for him to be able to communicate with the external avatar. As long as there was a slight mistake, the cultivator's spirit would be split, and he would die, which was the so-called soul scattering. Therefore, throughout the entire chaotic world, even if someone got this great divine ability, very few people would cultivate it. Of course, if one succeeded in cultivating it, the benefits would be great, because the outer body incarnation was absolutely the top divine ability in the chaotic world, and the mystery contained in it was beyond the imagination of outsiders. To cultivate or not to cultivate it? Yi Xian held the scripture in his hand and frowned tightly. He was thinking about this problem and did not know how to choose. As for the chaotic 5-elemental rock, although Yi Xian knew that it was a treasure, it was not impossible to find it in the Nanda territory. If he was willing to search for it one by one, he could always gather it. What really weighed Yi Xian down was the process of the 10,000 years of painstaking effort. If he made a mistake, he would end up with his soul scattering. Yi Xian was very clear that in the distant past, there were many geniuses who thought they were extraordinary and extremely arrogant in cultivating this great divine ability, but in the end, they all ended up with their soul scattering. Yi Xian was silent and hesitated. However, the process did not take long. After a few breaths, Yi Xian's eyes were fixed and he had made a decision. What am I afraid of? Haven't I been wandering between life and death all this time? I have survived so many death tribulations. Why wouldn't I dare to cultivate an external incarnation? Yi Xian laughed at himself and calmed down. As long as I cultivate an external incarnation, not only will I have an extra life, but this external incarnation will also be of great use to me. This great divine ability is tailor-made for me. Yi Xian whispered excitedly. No one knew what Yi Xian was thinking. In fact, Yi Xian had a plan, but he had never put it into action. The boundless mortal world technique. Yes, it was the boundless mortal world technique, also known as the power of karma. Luoho cultivated this technique. In the past, Yi Xian had also passed this technique to Liu Bai. The power of karma was one of the 12 strongest forces in the chaos. Yi Xian had wanted to cultivate this technique for a long time, but he had never taken action. It was not that Yi Xian did not want to cultivate it, but that he did not have enough energy. The power of time and space, and the power of nirvana, were two supreme powers that he had just mastered, and had yet to cultivate to a profound level. If he were to cultivate the boundless secular world technique, his own cultivation method would be extremely heterogeneous. As the saying goes, quality is more important than quantity. After all, a person's energy was limited. If Yi Xian was distracted by cultivating the boundless mortal world technique, not only would his cultivation not improve, it would stagnate because of the boundless mortal world technique. However, it was different now. This great divine ability of the external incarnation was tailor-made for Yi Xian. As long as Yi Xian could cultivate the external incarnation successfully, he could let his clone cultivate the boundless mortal world technique. This would also solve the problem that Yi Xian had always wanted to cultivate the boundless mortal world technique. As long as he succeeded in cultivating the external incarnation, his clone could cultivate the boundless mortal world technique, and then derive the power of karma. Yi Xian had a huge ambition. If this path worked, it would not only be the power of karma. If he had the chance to obtain another supreme technique, he could let his external incarnation cultivate another supreme force. If Yi Xian's plan really worked, Yi Xian would have 4 supreme forces in the future. Just thinking about that scene made Yi Xian extremely excited. Fortunately, Yi Xian quickly calmed down. This was only his idea and plan, and he needed to realize it step by step. Chapter 1153. There were 2 things that Yi Xian needed to do. The first was to find Gai Tianyuan and kill him, because that guy knew too many of his secrets. The second was his body and the Sage Monarch world, as well as the inheritance of the Chaos Star Master. Yi Xian stepped into the Saint Monarch realm in a hurry. His cultivation had not stabilized, the Sage Monarch world had not been opened, and his body had not been refined. The most important thing was that he wanted to cultivate the inheritance of the Chaos Star Master. It was only because of Gai Tianyuan that he was delayed for so long. If he did not solve this problem, he would not be able to cultivate in peace. Yi Xian quickly put away the page of scripture and strode out of the forbidden area. The entire holy land of Taichu turned into ashes, completely buried in his hands. Mystic Spell Kingdom. Nearly 1,000,000 years had passed since Yi Xian left. During this period of time, Lin Miaofa and Lin Miaofa could be said to be trembling in fear. This was because too many things had happened in these 1,000,000 years. The entire Mystic Spell Kingdom was almost destroyed because of Yi Xian. Fortunately, someone came forward and saved the Mystic Spell Kingdom. It was worth mentioning that after 1,000,000 years, Lin Miaofa had stepped into the Great Saint Realm, and Lin Miaoxian was only 1 step away from it. This was the only thing that made the 2 women happy. However, the 2 women were always on tenterhooks, and hoped that Yi Xian would appear day and night, because the big shot who protected the Mystic Spell Kingdom wanted to see Yi Xian. He even told the 2 women to inform him immediately if Yi Xian appeared. The 2 women respected this big shot like a god, because behind this big shot was a colossus. Throughout the chaotic world, this big shot's orthodoxy had existed since ancient times. It was not something that the Mystic Spell Kingdom could compare to. Clang clang clang. The sound of the guqin was like water, as if expressing melancholy. Lin Miaofa's 10 fingers plucked the strings, and her beautiful face was slightly haggard. Lin Miaoxian shook her head helplessly, knowing that her sister was also under great pressure. I haven't seen you for many years. Why are you so melancholy? Suddenly a clear voice sounded. Yi Xian crossed the sky and appeared in front of the 2 women in an instant, looking at them with his hands behind his back. And Mr. Yi? Bang! The sound of the zither strings breaking was extremely ear-piercing. Lin Miaofa stared blankly at Yi Xian, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Mr. Yi, is it really you? Lin Miaoxian exclaimed softly. Her eyes were red and misty. Don't misunderstand. The 2 women didn't have any deep feelings for Yi Xian. But Yi Xian's appearance had finally allowed them to breathe a sigh of relief. They finally didn't have to face that terrifying big shot. Yi Xian was a shrewd man, and he could tell that the two women had a lot on their minds. Moreover, he had killed several great saints and Saint King Hun Tian at the Southern Dipper meeting. How could the two women not be implicated? Actually, Yi Xian had returned to the Mystic Magic Kingdom to see if the Mystic Magic Kingdom was still there. If it was still there, he wanted to see if he could find a way to find Gai Tianyuan through the Mystic Magic Kingdom. If the Mystic Magic Kingdom was destroyed by the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, he would naturally leave. But now, it seemed that the wondrous Spell Nation was safe and sound after 1,000,000 years. There must be some inside story that he didn't know. Sir, please take a seat. Lin Miaoxian was extremely obedient. She knew that Yi Xian had a fierce temperament, so she quickly fetched a futon for Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't stand on ceremony. He sat on the futon and looked at the two women with deep eyes. His entire person was calm. Sir, where have you been for the past 1,000,000 years? We sisters. Before Lin Miaofa could finish, Yi Xian waved his hand and interrupted. No need to ask about my well-being. Tell me what happened. Yi Xian didn't have any feelings for the two women. To put it bluntly, both sides were just using each other. There was no need for so many polite words. Lin Miaofa's expression changed slightly. She knew that Yi Xian was a meticulous person. He must have seen through something. She didn't hide it and slowly told him what happened in the past 1,000,000 years. It turned out that back then, Yi Xian killed several great sages, and even chased after Saint King Hun Tian for hundreds of millions of miles. This matter was so big that it made the 10,000 Spirit Palace extremely angry. The 10,000 Spirit Palace even sent out several elders to search for Yi Xian's whereabouts. But in the end they couldn't find him. Yi Xian had a close relationship with the two women. This also made the 10,000 Miles Heaven Palace vent their anger on the wondrous Spell Nation. When the elders arrived, they almost uprooted the wondrous Spell Nation. But it was also at this time that a big shot appeared. With a few words, he sent away the elders of the 10,000 Spirit Palace and saved the wondrous Spell Nation. Big shot. After listening to the two women's narration, Yi Xian frowned slightly. He didn't have any friends in the chaotic world. Who is this so-called big shot? Interesting. He can persuade the people of the 10,000 Spirit Palace to leave with just a few words. It seems that this big shot is not ordinary. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Tell me, who is this big shot, and what is his purpose? Yi Xian looked at the two women indifferently. Butian Pavilion Lord. Lin Miaofa said word by word. Even her voice was trembling. A hint of reverence flashed across her eyes. Butian Pavilion Lord? Yi Xian frowned. This was the first time he heard this name. Naturally, he didn't know who this person was. Perhaps you haven't heard of the Butian Pavilion Lord, but I'm sure you've heard of the Butian sect, right? Lin Miaofa said. Butian sect? Yi Xian's expression changed. He naturally knew of the Butian sect. It was clearly recorded in the chaotic book of history that the Butian sect was a great sect in the central region. Although it wasn't as terrifying as the 10 most powerful sects, it was still a colossus. The Butian sect lord was even a terrifying big shot in the legends. Yes, the Butian Pavilion Lord is from the Butian sect. He is in charge of the Butian Pavilion in the southern region. He is also a big shot in the creation realm. If he didn't appear to protect the wondrous Spell Nation, I'm afraid our wondrous Spell Nation would have been destroyed by the 10,000 Spirit Palace, Lin Miaofa said. Mr. Yi, you probably don't know. Back then, you caused a great disaster. The 10,000 Spirit Palace issued a kill order to kill you. It was the Butian Pavilion Lord who came out and made the 10,000 Spirit Palace withdraw this order. Lin Miaofa continued. Oh. Yi Xian slightly narrowed his eyes. He already felt that something was wrong. He had nothing to do with the Butian sect. Yet the Butian Pavilion Lord actually went to war for him. There must be some secret that he didn't know about. Tell me, what did the Butian Pavilion Lord tell you? Yi Xian's thoughts turned as he indifferently looked at the two girls. The Butian Pavilion Lord told us that if you return to the wondrous Spell Nation, he hopes that you can take a trip to the Butian Pavilion. He wants to see you. Lin Miaofa bowed and said, Okay. Yi Xian didn't hesitate at all and directly agreed. He really wanted to know why the Butian Pavilion Lord wanted to help him. Although Yi Xian had a faint guess in his heart, he didn't dare to confirm it. He was just waiting to see the Butian Pavilion Lord. Then everything would be revealed. Chapter 1154. Thank you, Mr. Yi. I'll make the arrangements now. Lin Miaofa's face was filled with joy. She immediately shot out a ray of light and disappeared from the mystic kingdom. Clearly, this was a secret communication technique. Sure enough, after a few dozen breaths of time, the ray of light turned back and formed a mirror image in front of Yi Xian. A voice came out from the mirror image. Yi Xian, Heaven Mending Pavilion Master? Yi Xian's expression did not change. He continued to talk to the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. This Pavilion Master will send someone to the Mystic Kingdom to pick you up. I hope you won't leave. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's voice was cold. The mirror image instantly disappeared. Too many things could be seen from a person's attitude. Although the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master only said a few words, Yi Xian could feel that the Pavilion Master did not have any good intentions towards him. Heaven Mending Pavilion? Heaven Mending Sect? Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. A smile appeared on his face. The guess in his heart had become more and more certain. 3 days later, the person from the Heaven Mending Pavilion was a great saint. As soon as he arrived at the Mystic Kingdom, he shouted for Yi Xian to come out. However, when Yi Xian appeared in front of him, this great saint looked at him in surprise. He did not expect Yi Xian to be a saint king. Lead the way. Yi Xian did not ask for this person's name. He was not interested in him at all because the person he really wanted to meet was the Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. Your cultivation is not bad, but you are too arrogant. Tua High Great Saint slowly shook his head and judged Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not pay attention to this person. Tua High Great Saint was ordered to bring Yi Xian to the Heaven Mending Pavilion. Although he was dissatisfied with Yi Xian's attitude, he did not say anything. Follow me closely, Tua High Great Saint said in a low voice. He turned into a ray of light and shot towards the east. Yi Xian calmly followed. The two of them instantly disappeared from the Mystic Kingdom. Who? Lin Miaofa heaved a sigh of relief and said, That plague god is finally gone. My Miaofa nation has finally escaped this calamity. Sister, I don't think this person is a reckless person. Instead, he has a great spirit. Can't our Miaofa nation be on good terms with him? Lin Miaoxian frowned. AI. Lin Miaofa sighed. So what if he's bold? He's just a mortal after all. Furthermore, he has offended the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, which has already cut off his future path. Our Miaofa nation is only a small place. We can't keep someone like him, and we can't keep him. Otherwise, he'll definitely bring us a great disaster. Sister, I feel that this person's temperament is very unusual. Every time I see him, although I feel a little scared, I also have a very strong sense of security. It seems that as long as he is by my side, there is nothing that can't be solved. Lin Miaoxian murmured. Little sister, you can't have fallen in love with this person, right? Lin Miaofa's expression changed. No, how could I fall in love with him? Lin Miaoxian blushed and hurriedly waved her hand to explain. Little sister, you have to remember, you can't get involved with this person. Otherwise it will implicate us. Lin Miaofa said earnestly. I know, sister. Lin Miaofa murmured. However, Yi Xian's voice and appearance still lingered in her heart, which made her heart tremble and feel shy. Auspicious and colorful, bejeweled palaces, vast and boundless territories, rainbows and immortal bridges intertwined, and within the spiritual chi that filled the sky, numerous palaces stretched across the sky, causing one to feel a great sense of reverence when looking at them. At this moment, Yi Xian and Tua High Great Sage stood side by side. In front of them was a vast palace with 3 words written on it, Heaven Mending Pavilion. Our pavilion master is waiting for you inside. You can go in, Tua High Great Sage said coldly, and turned to leave Yi Xian's side. Little friend, please come in. A deep voice came from inside Heaven Mending Pavilion. Yi Xian's expression was calm as he strode into Heaven Mending Pavilion. Inside Heaven Mending Pavilion, a figure in snow-white clothes was standing in front of Yi Xian. His body was surrounded by strands of divine light of creation. However, this person stood with his hands behind his back. Even when Yi Xian came behind him, he did not turn around to look at Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian indifferently looked at Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's back. He did not speak first, but a trace of contempt flashed through his eyes as he quietly stood behind him. A show of strength. A naked show of strength. The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's attitude was simply to invisibly pressure Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Heaven Mending Pavilion Master found the wrong person. Yi Xian did not fall for this trick. He had experienced all kinds of storms and waves. Even though Heaven Mending Pavilion Master was at the Blessed Realm, Yi Xian was not afraid at all. Time slowly passed. After half an hour, Heaven Mending Pavilion Master seemed to feel that Yi Xian was not ordinary. He finally turned around to look at Yi Xian. Elegant, refined, and otherworldly. His eyes were like stars. Heaven Mending Pavilion Master was extremely handsome. Looking at his age, he seemed to be a young man. He was not much older than Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian knew that the person standing in front of him was an old monster. He was not as young as he appeared. "You are Yi Xian?" Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's eyes were deep. He first sized up Yi Xian before coldly speaking. "You are Heaven Mending Pavilion Master?" Yi Xian's eyes stared straight at Heaven Mending Pavilion Master. Their gazes met, and an extremely oppressive atmosphere was created. It was as if there was a spark in their gazes. "I have to say you are very courageous." After 3 breaths, Heaven Mending Pavilion Master lightly spoke. "I have always been courageous. Otherwise, why would I come here alone to see you?" Yi Xian slightly smiled and said. As Yi Xian's words fell, Heaven Mending Pavilion Master's face froze. Then he smiled and nodded. "Not bad. It seems like this Pavilion Master has underestimated you. I don't want to talk nonsense. I came to see you because I want to know why you want to help me. After all, we do not know each other, and I cannot find a reason why you would help me." Yi Xian did not want to waste time with Heaven Mending Pavilion Master, so he directly asked the question in his heart. "It is very simple. It is because my superiors want me to protect you and not allow anyone to harm you. Is this reason enough?" Heaven Mending Pavilion Master lightly said. "Your superiors? Heaven Mending Sect." Yi Xian's eyes slightly narrowed. He was not surprised at all, as if he had already guessed this result. "You are very smart. It seems like you have already guessed it." Heaven Mending Pavilion Master nodded and said. "So you are saying that the person I saw before is an important figure in the Heaven Mending Sect, and you are also following his orders?" Yi Xian said in a low voice. "Correct. However, his identity is more terrifying than you can imagine. He is Heaven Mending Pavilion Master, an existence that you will always have to look up to." Heaven Mending Pavilion Master calmly admitted. He bowed towards the direction of the Central Territory, and his entire person was extremely sincere. "So it is like this." Yi Xian sighed. Lu Bai's face flashed through his mind. It seemed like Lu Bai was in the Central Territory's Heaven Mending Sect. Chapter 1155. However, what made Yi Xian somewhat helpless was that Lu Bai had always been concerned about him. Presumably, Sect Master Bution had ordered his disciples to protect him because of Lu Bai. "Since everything is clear, there is no need for me to stay. Help me tell Sect Master Bution that I, Yi Xian, do not need the protection of the Heaven Mending Sect, because I cannot afford to repay this favor. Goodbye." Yi Xian cupped his hands and turned to leave. "Wait." Suddenly, before Yi Xian could take 2 steps, Pavilion Master Bution's cold voice rang out. This also made Yi Xian stop, but he did not turn back to look at Pavilion Master Bution. "Is there anything else?" Yi Xian asked in a deep voice. "If you want to leave, this Pavilion Master will not stop you, nor will I make things difficult for you. This is because this Pavilion Master received an order to protect your life. However, before you leave, I have to warn you about one thing." The Heaven Mending Pavilion Master coldly said. "What is it?" Yi Xian slowly turned around. Although his expression looked calm, a cold light flashed through his eyes. I do not know why Sect Master Bution ordered me to protect you, but I can feel that Sect Master Bution hates you very much. I do not want to know the reason, nor do I need to know. However, I want to remind you of one thing. You killed several great saints of orthodoxies. These are trivial matters in the eyes of the heaven-mending sect, and I can help you block them. However, you killed people of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, and even killed Sacred King Hun Tian. This has already angered the 10,000 Spirit Palace. This is not a trivial matter. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said without changing his expression, "What are you trying to say? I want to tell you that don't think that you can do whatever you want with the protection of the heaven-mending sect. There are too many great sects in the chaotic world that cannot be provoked. If you offend them one day, even the heaven-mending sect will not be able to protect you. Moreover, in order to make up for your mistake, I personally went to see Venerable Sky Tyrant and begged him to revoke the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace's bounty on you. I even paid him a treasure of heaven and earth. Remember, this is the only time. If you offend the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, or some other terrifying power again, this Pavilion Master will not continue to protect you. After all, the Sect Master only said that he would protect your life. He did not say that he would help you fight against those powers. Remember, if you do it again, I will seal your cultivation and imprison you in the Heaven-Mending Pavilion forever. This way, you can be considered to be obeying the sect leader's orders." The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master spoke a lot. His words were extremely sharp, but Yi Xian listened attentively. From beginning to end, he was extremely calm. "Are you done?" Yi Xian asked calmly. Bution Pavilion Master's face froze. "Then let me tell you something." Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master and said, "From beginning to end, I have never asked for protection from the Heaven-Mending sect. I even told the sect master that I, Yi Xian, do not need the Heaven-Mending sect's protection. All of this was your own decision. What does it have to do with me? Speaking of which, I really don't like the way you talk to me. You think that just because you are in the blessed realm, you can order me around?" Yi Xian said coldly, "How dare you?" The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master's face was filled with rage. His holy light of creation suddenly exploded. His 5 fingers were raised as if he was about to attack Yi Xian. The blessed realm was indeed terrifying. Just the power that exploded out caused Yi Xian's face to change. The opponent's aura was several times stronger than Gai Tianyuan's. Clearly, this was the true cultivation of a blessed realm expert. However, Yi Xian did not show any fear. Even if he could not beat the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master, he believed that if he wanted to leave, the other party could not stop him. Phew! The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master let out a breath of turbid air. In the end, he did not make a move against Yi Xian. After all, Yi Xian was someone the Heaven-Mending Sect Master wanted to protect. He did not want to force Yi Xian too much. Moreover, he still needed Yi Xian to do something for him. This was the real reason why he wanted to see Yi Xian. "Yi Xian, this Pavilion Master does not want to argue with you. Since you do not need my Heaven-Mending Sect's protection, I will report this matter to the Sect Master. However, right now, I need you to do something for me." The Heaven-Mending Sect Master said in a deep voice. "What is it?" Yi Xian did not like to owe others favors. Even though this was forced upon him by the Heaven-Mending Sect, the Heaven-Mending Sect did indeed help him. "Even though the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace has revoked the order to kill you, I have promised Venerable Sky Tyrant that I will personally take you to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace to apologize. This is related to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's reputation, so I hope you can come with me." The Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master paused here. Clearly, he was afraid that Yi Xian would be worried about the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's calamity. He then continued, "You can rest assured, since Venerable Sky Tyrant has promised me not to make things difficult for you, you will not encounter any danger on this trip to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace." 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace? Apologize? Yi Xian smiled. However, his smile was very cold. The person who could make Yi Xian bow and apologize had not been born yet. Even though he could not shake the colossus that was the 10,000-spirit heavenly palace, it was impossible for him, Yi Xian, to personally apologize. This was related to his own dignity. Yi Xian was just about to refuse, but when the words reached his mouth he suddenly paused. A strange expression flashed through his eyes, as if he'd thought of something. Yi Xian's tone changed. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile as he said, "Okay, I promise you." Perhaps some people would ask, was Yi Xian really going to personally apologize? What a joke, what a joke. An apology was definitely not an apology. Instead, Yi Xian had thought of a way to kill with a borrowed knife. What did it mean to kill with a borrowed knife? The 10,000-spirit heavenly palace was the knife, and the person he wanted to kill was naturally Gai Tianyuan. Right now, there was no news of Gai Tianyuan. No one knew where he was hiding, but he could stab Yi Xian in the back at any time. Yi Xian was in the light, while Gai Tianyuan was in the dark. This situation was extremely unfavorable for Yi Xian, so Yi Xian wanted to turn the situation around. Yi Xian was alone. If he wanted to find Gai Tianyuan, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. The 10,000-spirit heavenly palace was extremely powerful, and they were the leaders of the 10th origin gathering. If they made a move, Gai Tianyuan would have nowhere to hide. Moreover, Yi Xian was very confident that as long as he told the 10,000-spirit heavenly palace about Gai Tianyuan, they would not only not view him as an enemy, but would also be extremely grateful. After all, Gai Tianyuan was once the enemy of the Lord of all spirits. If the 10,000-spirit heavenly palace knew he was still alive, how could they let him go? In truth, Yi Xian really did not like to use such a sinister scheme. He still wanted to personally kill Gai Tianyuan. It was that simple and direct. However, Yi Xian needed time to kill Gai Tianyuan. His cultivation had not stabilized. His sage monarch world had not been opened. His body had not been tempered. And he had not cultivated the Chaos Star Master's inheritance. Moreover, he had just obtained the external incarnation technique. Therefore, Yi Xian could only use a sinister scheme to kill Gai Tianyuan. Only then could he eliminate this hidden danger and let him cultivate in peace. After all, Yi Xian did not want Gai Tianyuan to suddenly appear behind him and stab him in the back while he was cultivating. Yi Xian had to eliminate this hidden danger. At this moment, after receiving Yi Xian's agreement, the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master finally revealed a smile. The anger that had just risen also dissipated. Clearly, he believed that Yi Xian had given in. Unfortunately, the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master did not know that Yi Xian had agreed to go with him to the 10,000-spirit subhall, because he wanted to borrow the 10,000-spirit subhall's hand to kill Gai Tianyuan. This was his true goal. As for the so-called apology, it was simply nonsense to Yi Xian. Chapter 1156. Myriad Spirit Palace. In the entire southern Do region, the Myriad Spirit Palace was definitely the most terrifying existence. Other than the 9 great orthodoxies, no one dared to go against the will of the Myriad Spirit Palace. The Myriad Spirit Palace was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui, and never lacked the so-called amazing talents. Its foundation was unimaginably deep, and it even had the Lord of all spirits in the central region. All the orthodoxies worshipped it. Majestic and majestic, a vast heavenly palace stretched across the clouds. Golden lotuses bloomed in the void, illuminating the heavenly palace with boundless majesty. A golden plaque hung above the heavenly palace, 10,000 Spirit Sub-Palace. Inside the Myriad Spirit Palace, Sky Tyrant Venerable stood with his hands behind his back. This person had a rough appearance and a red face. Although he did not reveal any aura, he gave off an extremely domineering feeling. Palace Master, Butian Pavilion Master is waiting outside with that person called Yi Xian. May I know when Palace Master will summon them? A guard bowed and reported, "Let them wait outside." Sky Tyrant Venerable said disdainfully, as if he did not put Butian Pavilion Master and Yi Xian in his eyes. Palace Master, Butian Pavilion Master is a member of Butian sect. If we let him wait outside, isn't it a little? An old Saint King walked over and bowed to Sky Tyrant Venerable. He wanted to say something but stopped. Humph. Venerable Sky Tyrant coldly snorted and said, "A mere heaven-mending pavilion master. Do you want me to greet him respectfully? Although the heaven-mending sect is powerful, it depends on who it is compared to. In front of my 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, the heaven-mending sect is just a subordinate." Venerable Empyrean Tyrant paused for a moment, then looked into the distance and continued. "The Grand Central Territory sent me a message saying that Jiolingzi has arrived at the Grand Southern Territory. He will be here today. After we welcome Jiolingzi, we will summon these two people." The ninth spirit son? The old Saint King's expression changed. He quickly bowed to Sky Tyrant Venerable and said, "Could it be the ninth spirit son Yao Yueya?" "Of course it's him. Otherwise, why would I come out and wait here?" Venerable Sky Tyrant smiled. Rumor has it that the ninth spirit child, Yao Yueya, has the demon moon battle physique. Every time the moon star rises into the sky, his combat strength will double. He is one of the spirit children cultivated by the main palace. Why would he come to our southern Do territory? The old Saint King asked in surprise. Spiritual sons also need to gain experience, and this ninth spiritual son's place of experience is in the Great Southern Do region. This Hall Master has just been notified. Venerable Sky Tyrant smiled. Congratulations, Palace Master. As long as you can establish a connection with the ninth spiritual son, you will definitely be able to return to the Central Territory in the future. Even entering the Yinyang realm is just around the corner. The old Holy King hurriedly congratulated him. Haha. Venerable Sky Tyrant laughed heartily and said, "Thank you for your kind words. If I can return to the Grand Central Territory, I will definitely bring you along." "Thank you, Palace Lord, for your kindness." The old Holy King hurriedly knelt on the ground, excitement on his face. One had to know that although the north, south, east, west, and north regions were vast and rich in resources, they were far inferior to the Grand Central Territory. Countless opportunities were gathered in the Grand Central Domain. Many colossal figures were stationed in the Grand Central Domain, and those peerless geniuses were all competing there. Venerable Sky Tyrant was originally a disciple of the main hall, but he offended someone and was sent to the Great Southern Do region to be a small sub-hall master. Only he knew the sadness and helplessness he felt. This time, the ninth spiritual son, Yao Yueya, came to the Great Southern Do region. Venerable Sky Tyrant must take this opportunity to build a good relationship with the ninth spiritual son. Only then would he have a chance to return to the Grand Central Territory. "Palace Lord, what about Butian Pavilion Master and the others?" The guard at the side wanted to say something but stopped. "Let them wait outside." "Yes, Palace Lord." The guard hurriedly agreed and quickly left. Outside the All Spirits Palace, Yi Xian and Butian Pavilion Master stood side by side. The two of them were listening to the guard's message, but Butian Pavilion Master's face clearly showed some dissatisfaction. "You want us to wait?" Butian Pavilion Master's voice was slightly cold. "Senior, I have already passed on the Palace Lord's message. Goodbye." The guard bowed and left with large strides. "Ah." Suddenly, Yi Xian sneered and said, "It seems like this venerable Sky Tyrant did not put your heaven-mending sect in his eyes. I thought your heaven-mending sect was more powerful." Hearing Yi Xian's words, Butian Pavilion Master's face became gloomy, but he could not refute Yi Xian's words. "Yi Xian, I don't want to argue with you. Since Venerable Sky Tyrant told us to wait outside, then there is no need for us to meet him. Let's go." Butian Pavilion Master's temperament seemed gentle and polite, but he was extremely arrogant. Moreover, he represented the heaven-mending sect. If they really waited here, then this matter would be a loss of face for the heaven-mending sect. "Go," Yi Xian said faintly. "Since we are already here, if we don't meet Venerable Sky Tyrant, then wouldn't we have wasted our trip?" Butian Pavilion Master's face froze. He looked at Yi Xian with a strange expression. Logically speaking, if he brought Yi Xian away, then Yi Xian would have nothing to lose. Why did he want to meet the Venerable Sky Tyrant clan? No, this brat is too shrewd. He must be up to something. Butian Pavilion Master muttered to himself. However, he did not know what Yi Xian wanted to do. Yi Xian, tell me the truth. You want to meet Venerable Sky Tyrant, not to apologize, right? Butian Pavilion Master said in a low voice. Haha. Yi Xian smiled and did not answer. This made Butian Pavilion Master even more suspicious of Yi Xian. Just as Butian Pavilion Master was about to continue asking, he heard a loud rumbling sound from the distant sky. 9 strange beasts with dragon heads and tiger bodies were pulling a bright silver ancient chariot towards the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Butian Pavilion Master's expression changed. He whispered in shock. 10,000 Spirit Palace? Spiritual droplets are traveling? How is this possible? Aren't the 10,000 Spirit Palaces spiritual droplets in the Central Territory? Butian Pavilion Master whispered in shock. What spiritual droplets? Yi Xian naturally noticed the silver ancient war chariot that was heading towards them. He could even see a figure sitting cross-legged within the war chariot. There were also 4 beautiful women on both sides of the war chariot. A coachman was whipping 9 strange beasts as they rumbled towards him. The so-called spiritual droplets are the disciples raised by the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Legend has it that the 10,000 Spirit Palace has 12 spiritual droplets. Each one of them has an extremely hard-to-find battle physique. They are also the strongest competitors in the next era. I wonder which spiritual droplet this 10,000 Spirit Palace is. Butian Pavilion Master said in a serious tone. Spiritual droplet? Yi Xian's eyes slightly brightened as he looked towards the 10,000 Spirit Palace. The 10,000 Spirit Palace's speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths of time, it had already arrived in front of Yi Xian. 10,000 Spirit Palace, idle people, please step aside. The coachman waved his whip and loudly shouted at Yi Xian and Butian Pavilion Master. The 10,000 Spirit Palace cannot be disturbed. We will step aside for now. Butian Pavilion Master frowned and pulled Yi Xian to the side. Something that shocked Butian Pavilion Master happened. He pulled Yi Xian to step aside, but Yi Xian's body did not move at all. This caused Butian Pavilion Master's expression to change. Quickly step aside. Butian Pavilion Master coldly reminded Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a deaf ear as if he did not hear anything. The 10,000 Spirit Palace had already arrived in front of him and was about to crash into his body. Chapter 1157. How dare you? Smack! Seeing that Yi Xian didn't move, the coachman was furious. The long whip in his hand struck toward Yi Xian's head, causing the void to collapse. His cultivation turned out to be a great saint. Clang! Yi Xian flicked his finger, and the long whip that struck toward him roared. The coachman was sent flying with the long whip in his hand. Protect the emperor. The 4 beautiful women's faces turned cold. They jumped out of the 10,000 spirits Dharma carriage, and a spiritual sword appeared in their hands. In an instant, they surrounded Yi Xian in the center. How dare you disturb the spirit Dharma carriage? How dare you? The 4 beautiful women scolded coldly, and an extremely cold murderous intent pressed toward Yi Xian. You were the one who went on a rampage. Why are you complaining now? Yi Xian said indifferently. How dare you? Sisters, take him down. The 4 women scolded, and the 4 spiritual swords clanged. The next moment, they were about to attack Yi Xian. Stand down. Suddenly, a soft voice came from the 10,000 spirits Dharma carriage, which made the 4 women's faces change. They hurriedly put away the spiritual swords in their hands, and then bowed to the sides of the carriage. The bead curtain of the 10,000 spirits Dharma carriage was lifted, and a young man in silver walked out. With the appearance of this person, the world seemed to have lost its color at this moment. His silver hair hung behind his head, and his eyes were like stars rotating. When his eyes opened and closed, it seemed that the scene of the sun setting and the moon rising appeared in his eyes. Beautiful, extremely beautiful. A beauty that couldn't be expressed with words. This kind of beauty should never appear on a man. His beauty seemed to make the stars in the sky lose their color. When Yi Xian saw this person, his eyes were in a trance. If it weren't for the Adam's apple, Yi Xian would have thought that this person was a woman. Your Highness, This person disturbed your Dharma carriage. He should be beaten to death. The coachman walked quickly, and his palm was bleeding. He looked at Yi Xian with extremely cold eyes. Shut up. The silver-robed man frowned and scolded. We were the ones who offended this fellow Taoist. How can we be so unreasonable? Your Highness, this old servant knows his mistake. The coachman hurriedly knelt and kowtowed, not daring to say another word. I am Yao Yu Yi of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Greetings, fellow Taoist. May I know your name? Yao Yu Yi was elegant as he cupped his hands and bowed towards Yi Xian with a kind smile on his face. The spring wind and rain were extremely auspicious. The elegance that Yao Yu Yi displayed was simply impeccable. I am Yi Xian. Greetings, fellow Taoist. Yi Xian's expression didn't change. He cupped his hands and bowed. The Nine Heavens Saint King. This guy is actually a Nine Heavens Saint King. Although Yi Xian seemed calm, monstrous waves had already risen in his heart. He could even sense Yao Yi's terrifying cultivation from her aura. If it was an ordinary Nine Heavens Saint King, Yi Xian would never pay attention to her. However, this Yao Yuye in front of him gave him an extremely frightening feeling. The other party didn't reveal any aura, and was trying to hide it. However, just the trace of aura that leaked out made Yi Xian treat this person as a great enemy. Battle physique. This damn sissy must have some terrifying battle physique. Yi Xian roared in his heart. He was extremely sure of his guess. Since Yi Xian entered the chaotic world, he had never seen any battle physique. Even Gai Tianyuan's heavenly origin battle physique was just a wisp of remnant soul. He couldn't sense anything. However, this Yao Yuya definitely had some terrifying battle physique. Otherwise, although he was a Nine Heavens Saint King, he wouldn't have given him such pressure. You are the ninth spiritual son, Yao Yuya? Suddenly, Butian Pavilion Master strode over. He looked at Yao Yuya with a shocked face, and a heavy look flashed across his eyes. This senior is from the Heaven Mending sect, right? Yao Yuya is right. Yao Yuya cupped his hands and bowed towards Butian Pavilion Master. However, Butian Pavilion Master hurriedly avoided him and waved his hands. The ninth spiritual sons might shake the chaotic world. Although I am in the blessed realm, how can I be worthy of being the ninth spiritual son senior? I ask that the ninth spiritual son doesn't make me feel unworthy. Senior is too modest. Although I am a spiritual son, Yuya has always admired the Heaven Mending sect. This bow is not only for senior, but also for the Heaven Mending sect. Senior should be able to accept it. Yao Yuya smiled. Good. Butian Pavilion Master's face shook. He said 3 good words in a row. His face was full of vigor, and he looked at Yao Yuya with admiration. I dare not accept the title of senior. If the ninth spiritual son thinks highly of me, just call me fellow Taoist. Butian Pavilion Master cupped his hands and returned the bow. His entire person was extremely humble. Where was the arrogant attitude he had towards Yi Xian before? Actually, Butian Pavilion Master could not be blamed for treating Yi Xian differently from Yao Yuya. The ninth spiritual son, Yao Yuya, was extremely famous in the Grand Central Territory. He was even more famous among the younger generation. Although he was only in the Nine Heavens Saint King realm, his Demon Moon battle physique could fight against Blessed Realm cultivators. On the other hand, Yi Xian was only a loose cultivator. Whether it was fame or cultivation, he was far inferior to Yao Yuya. Most importantly, Yi Xian only had a mortal body. His potential was limited. Comparing the two, Butian Pavilion Master's attitude towards Yao Yuya was naturally different from Yi Xian. You really are like a dog. I wonder if your sect master will be angry that the Heaven Mending sect does not have a successor after seeing you like this? Suddenly Yi Xian sneered. He originally had a good impression of Butian Pavilion Master, but now that he saw Butian Pavilion Master's servile attitude towards Yao Yuya, he was completely disappointed. Yi Xian, don't go too far. Butian Pavilion Master's face was red as he loudly reprimanded Yi Xian. However, there was a trace of embarrassment in his eyes. After all, he was a member of the Heaven Mending sect. Bowing to his sect's spiritual son was indeed damaging the Heaven Mending sect's reputation. At this moment, A trace of surprise flashed through Yao Yueya's eyes. He could naturally see that Yi Xian was only a minor saint king, and he only had a mortal body. However, what surprised Yao Yueya was that Butian Pavilion Master, a blessed realm cultivator, actually endured Yi Xian's mockery. This person is a bit interesting, Yao Yueya muttered in his heart. He finally sized up Yi Xian. However, it would have been better if he did not size him up. Now that he carefully observed him, his expression suddenly changed, but it returned to normal in an instant. This person actually gives me a sense of danger. Yao Yueya was surprised. Although he could see that Yi Xian was only a minor saint king, his mind suddenly trembled for some reason. It was as if the other party was a sleeping beast that had not opened its eyes yet. Yao Yueya believed in his senses, because his demon moon combat body was extremely sensitive. He would be able to sense anything that was a threat to him at first notice. He didn't even feel such a sense of danger from the heaven-mending pavilion master. But this person called Yi Xian gave him such a feeling. This person is definitely not ordinary. Yao Yueya did not look down on Yi Xian just because he had a mortal body. Instead, he became more and more concerned about Yi Xian. Rumble. Ha ha ha. The ninth spiritual sun has arrived in the southern Dipper region. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Suddenly, a heavenly bridge spread out from the 10,000 spirit palace. Venerable Sky Tyrant's loud laughter could be heard as he led the elders and disciples of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace over. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Yi Xian and the others. Chapter 1158. Greetings, Senior Sky Tyrant. Yao Yueya bowed politely. Venerable Sky Tyrant hurriedly dodged with a look of fear on his face. Instead, he bowed towards Yao Yueya. You mustn't do this. Sky Tyrant is only a small sub-hall master. How can I accept your bow? Sky Tyrant Venerable said in fear. Looking at Sky Tyrant Venerable's terrified expression, Yao Yueya no longer insisted. Sky Tyrant Venerable let out a sigh of relief and quickly invited Yao Yueya into the hall for a chat. You've come from afar. I've already prepared a feast to welcome you, please. Sky Tyrant Venerable invited Yao Yueya with a face full of smiles. Fellow Sky Tyrant. Suddenly, Butian Pavilion Master called out with an ugly expression. Apparently, Sky Tyrant Venerable's disregard for him made him lose some face. Sky Tyrant Venerable had already seen Butian Pavilion Master and Yi Xian, but with Ninth Spirit Sun in front of him, he no longer had the mind to pay attention to Yi Xian and Butian Pavilion Master. This brat is the one who killed my myriad spirit subhalls people, right? Venerable Sky Tyrant finally looked towards Yi Xian and the heaven-mending Pavilion Master. However, his attitude had changed to one of superiority. How could he bow and scrape to Yao Yueya? Today, Ninth Spirit Sun came to my myriad spirit subhall. I'll naturally summon you later. Sky Tyrant Venerable waved his hand and said impatiently. Sky Tyrant, I kept my promise and brought Yi Xian here to apologize to you. But you didn't put me in your eyes at all. Do you think my Butian sect is easy to bully? Butian Pavilion Master scolded. Noisy. Venerable Empyrean Tyrant's face was filled with anger as he roared. The holy light of creation rotated with a loud rumble, and an extremely overbearing power pressed down on the heaven-mending Pavilion Master. Do you think this Pavilion Master is afraid of you? Butian Pavilion Master scolded angrily. His holy light of creation also burst out. The aura of the two caused the wind and clouds to howl, and the whole world to rumble. Seniors, can you give me some face and temporarily quell your anger? Before the two of them could make a move, Yao Yueya quietly stood in front of the two of them. A wisp of spirit light circled around his body, instantly isolating the auras of the two blessed realm cultivators. This damn transvestite has such a powerful cultivation. Yi Xian was shocked. He kept observing Yao Yueya with his Dharma eyes. He found that Yao Yueya's saint soul and body were surrounded by a bloody light. Apparently, this was the secret of Yao Yueya's battle body. How would Batian dare to disobey Lingzi's orders? Venerable Sky Tyrant hurriedly withdrew his aura and bowed towards Yao Yueya, before glaring fiercely at the heaven-mending Pavilion Master. Humph! The heaven-mending Pavilion Master coldly snorted and withdrew his aura as well. The great battle was dissolved into nothingness. From what I can see, this Yi Daoyu has an extraordinary temperament. He is definitely not some evil demon. There must be some misunderstanding here. Why don't we all sit down and talk about it? Yao Yueya said with a smile. We'll do as Lingzi says. Venerable Sky Tyrant followed Yao Yueya's lead. He then glanced at the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master and Yi Xian and said, Since Lingzi invited you in, you should welcome Lingzi together. After Venerable Sky Tyrant finished speaking, he quickly led the way for Yao Yueya. Yao Yueya smiled and invited the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master and Yi Xian to walk together. The group majestically entered the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Along the way, Yao Yuyi would chat with Yi Xian from time to time, and his words revealed his extraordinary bearing. Inside the 10,000 Spirit Palace, white jade was used as a table filled with spirit energy. Spirit fruits and immortal wine were served by maids. Under Venerable Sky Tyrant's invitation, Yao Yueya sat on the main seat, while Venerable Sky Tyrant sat beside him. From this, it could be seen that Yao Yueya's position was extraordinary. His arrival was highly valued by Venerable Sky Tyrant, and he did not dare to be negligent in his etiquette. The other 8 elders sat on both sides while Yi Xian and the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master sat on the main seat. However, the Heaven-Mending Pavilion Master did not say anything. He only wanted to settle Yi Xian's matter and quickly leave. Lingzi came to the southern Do Great region to train. This is our 10,000 Spirit Palace's honor. This old man toasts Lingzi. Venerable Sky Tyrant drank the wine in his cup in one gulp. Come, let's drink together. Yao Yueya smiled and raised his cup to toast everyone. Then, he drank the wine in his cup. Brother Yi, I see that you have an extraordinary temperament and want to be friends with you. I also want to invite you to my 10,000 Spirit Palace to train with me. I wonder if Brother Yi Xian would do me the honor? Yao Yueya smiled and looked at Yi Xian. Lingzi, you? Venerable Sky Tyrant was stunned. Just as he was about to say something, Yao Yueya waved his hand slightly and made Venerable Sky Tyrant swallow his words. He just looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression, mixed with extreme envy. Obviously, Yao Yueya wanted to take Yi Xian as a servant. This could be said to be an opportunity to reach the sky in a single bound. By the side of the 9th Lingzi, Yao Yueya, no matter if it was cultivation resources or secret skills, he could enjoy endless. Moreover, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the 12 spirit sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace were all extremely talented people. If they waited until the next Yuanhui began, a certain spirit son would most likely be the strongest in the next Yuanhui. Although the probability was very small, it did exist. Even if the 9th Lingzi, Yao Yueya, was not destined to be the strongest, he would definitely be a top figure in the chaotic world in the future. To be able to follow by Yao Yueya's side would naturally be a rising tide. Many people wanted this opportunity, but could not get it. Although Venerable Sky Tyrant was in the creation realm, he was very eager to follow by Yao Yueya's side. This was also the reason why he was so respectful to Yao Yueya. It was just that Venerable Sky Tyrant did not expect that Yao Yueya would take a fancy to a small figure like Yi Xian. This naturally made him jealous and envious. Thank you for your kind intentions, but I am used to being free and can't accept any restrictions. Also, I don't like to be a dog for others. Yi Xian said lightly. Yi Xian did not speak, but continued to speak. When he finished speaking, the entire hall was dead silent. The originally peaceful atmosphere suddenly dropped to the freezing point. Yi Xian, don't be rude. Butian Pavilion Master's expression changed greatly. He scolded Yi Xian in a low voice. His eyes flashed with anxiety. He secretly blamed Yi Xian in his heart. If you don't want to join the 10,000 Spirit Palace, why can't you decline tactfully? Do you have to say such offensive words? Sure enough, after 3 breaths, there was a loud bang. Venerable Sky Tyrant's face was gloomy as the white jade table in front of him was smashed into pieces. Bold Jr., how dare you speak such arrogant words to Lingzi? Brother Yi, I invited you with good intentions. It's fine if you don't want to, but you said such vulgar words. This Lingzi is very disappointed. Yao Yue frowned slightly, and his attitude became cold. Although Yao Yue looked refined and polite, he was actually an ambitious person. He was only curious about Yi Xian and wanted to bring him along to get to know him better. However, he didn't expect Yi Xian to reject him so rudely. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.